The moment the handcuffs clicked shut around her wrists, every radio in the parking lot died. Static hissed, then silence. Thick, suffocating silence. The officer froze mid-shove, his hand still gripping the white-haired nurse's shoulder. She didn't flinch, didn't struggle, just stood there in the rain, her scrubs soaked through, her face blank as stone. Then a voice crackled through every dead channel at once, low, military, impossible to ignore. "Release her, immediately. You do not know who you have in custody." The officer's smirk crumbled. His partner stepped back, and Evelyn Brooks, the exhausted 52-year-old nurse everyone had dismissed as broken, irrelevant, washed up, finally looked up. Her eyes weren't scared. They were counting. If you want to see how far this story travels, drop a comment with your city below. Like this video. And stay until the very end, because what happens next will flip everything you thought you knew. The fluorescent lights in Silvergate Medical Center's emergency wing buzzed like dying insects, casting a sickly yellow glow over the scuffed linoleum floors. Evelyn Brooks pushed her cleaning cart down the corridor, the wheels squeaking with every rotation. Her white hair was pulled back in a loose bun, strands escaping to frame a face mapped with lines earned from years of sleepless nights and silent endurance. Her scrubs were wrinkled, stained with old coffee and fresh antiseptic, hanging loose on a frame that had grown thinner over the past 6 months. She moved quietly. She always moved quietly. No one looked at her. No one ever did. "Excuse me," she said softly, pressing herself and the cart against the wall as 2 residents barreled past, their white coats flapping behind them like wings. They were laughing about something, a joke she didn't catch, a reference she wouldn't understand. They didn't acknowledge her presence. She was furniture, a fixture, part of the institutional wallpaper that had been there so long it had faded into the background. Evelyn had worked at Silvergate for 6 years. Before that, she'd been nowhere anyone cared to ask about. When the HR director had interviewed her, she'd kept her answers short, her references vague. Previous employment? Various healthcare facilities. Certifications? All current. Any gaps in your resume? Personal matters. The director had barely looked up from the paperwork. Silvergate was always short-staffed, always desperate. They didn't dig deep. They couldn't afford to. She kept her head down, her voice low, her past buried 6 feet under concrete and paperwork that would never see daylight. That was the deal she'd made with herself when she'd walked away from everything she'd been. Quiet. Invisible. Safe. "Brooks!" The voice cut through the hallway like a whip crack, sharp enough to make a passing orderly flinch. Evelyn turned slowly. Diane Merrick stood 15 feet away, arms crossed over her tailored blazer, her expression carved from ice and irritation. The assistant director of operations at Silvergate was 43, blonde, polished to a corporate sheen that reflected the hospital's fluorescent lights. She treated the staff like pieces on a chessboard, useful until they weren't. "You were supposed to restock the supply closet an hour ago," Diane said, her voice carrying down the hall. Other staff members slowed their pace, pretending not to listen. "I did," Evelyn said. "At 7. "Then why is it still a mess?" "I don't know. I cleaned it." Diane stepped closer, her heels clicking against the floor with military precision. Each step was calculated. Each step was a power play. "Are you calling me a liar?" Evelyn said nothing. She'd learned over 6 years that silence was safer than argument. Words could be twisted. Silence couldn't. Diane's eyes narrowed, her perfectly shaped eyebrows pulling together. "You're on thin ice, Brooks. One more screw-up, and you're done. Do you understand me?" Evelyn nodded once. Short, efficient. Diane held her gaze for another 3 seconds, a dominance display, territorial, then turned and walked away, her perfume trailing behind her like chemical warfare. Behind her, a young nurse named Sarah whispered to a colleague, barely bothering to lower her voice. "She's always so weird. Never talks to anyone, just sort of drifts around." "Probably why she's stuck doing scut work," the colleague replied, a resident named Marcus who spent more time on his phone than with patients. "I heard she doesn't even have friends, like at all." They giggled. The sound was bright and careless, the kind of laughter that came easy when you'd never been ground down by life. Evelyn kept pushing her cart, the wheels squeaking their monotonous rhythm. She'd heard worse, much worse. Words were nothing compared to what she'd survived. At 9:30, she took her break in the back stairwell. It was her spot, the place no one else bothered with because the elevator was faster and the stairs smelled like old mop water and desperation. The concrete was cold even through her scrubs. The air tasted like disinfectant and rust and something else she couldn't name. Maybe just the accumulated sadness of a building where people came to be saved and sometimes weren't. She unwrapped a granola bar from the bottom of her bag, ate half of it in small, measured bites, then rewrapped it carefully and tucked it back. She'd finish the rest on her next break. Money was tight. Money was always tight. Her hands were steady as she folded the wrapper. They were always steady, no matter what. That was the one thing that hadn't changed. Her phone buzzed. A text from her landlord, Roger, a man who owned 12 properties in Ashford City and treated his tenants like ATM machines with occasional plumbing problems. Rent's late again. You've got 48 hours or I'm starting eviction. She didn't reply. She'd find a way. She always did. Extra shifts, selling the last few pieces of jewelry she had left. Maybe pawning her grandmother's watch, the one thing she'd promised herself she'd never let go. But promises didn't pay rent. Footsteps echoed above her, heavy and deliberate. Two voices drifted down through the stairwell, male, low, trying to be quiet but not quite managing it. Evelyn didn't move. She sat perfectly still, her breathing slow and controlled, a skill she'd learned a long time ago when staying silent meant staying alive. You sure the shipment's coming through tonight? The first voice was anxious, younger, positive. Merrick confirmed it. She's got the ER on lockdown from midnight to 3. No one's going to notice a damn thing. The second voice was older, confident, tinged with the kind of arrogance that came from getting away with things too many times. What about security cameras? Handled? Loops already in place. We're ghosts. What about that old nurse, Brooks? She's always skulking around late. Brooks? The second voice laughed, a sound like gravel in a disposal. She's a nobody. Doesn't matter. Woman's practically furniture. I could do this in front of her and she'd probably just shuffle away with her cart. Evelyn finished her granola bar slowly, folded the wrapper with precise creases, tucked it in her pocket. She stood, brushed imaginary dust off her scrubs, and walked back upstairs. Her expression hadn't changed, not even slightly. At 11, the ER exploded into chaos. A car accident, T-bone collision at the intersection of 5th and Marlow, multiple victims, one critical, 2 serious, several minor. The trauma bay filled with noise and blood and the sharp smell of fear. Evelyn was pulled in to assist, not because anyone wanted her there, but because they were short-handed and she was available. She handed instruments before they were requested, held pressure exactly where it was needed, anticipated the needs of the surgical team 3 steps ahead. Suction, gauze, hemostats, lap pads, saline. Dr. Nathan Cross, the trauma lead, was a man in his late 30s who'd graduated top of his class at Johns Hopkins and never let anyone forget it. He barked orders without looking at faces, treating the staff like extensions of his own hands. Retractor. No, the other one. Jesus, do I have to do everything myself? Evelyn handed him the correct retractor. He snatched it without acknowledgement. 20 minutes later, the patient stabilized. Cross peeled off his gloves, tossed them in Evelyn's general direction. They landed on the floor near her feet. Clean this up. She nodded. He left, already on his phone, already moving on to whatever came next. The other nurses filtered out, exhausted, their shifts bleeding into overtime. Sarah appeared beside Evelyn, eyes wide, face pale. She was 26, fresh out of nursing school, still believed the job was about helping people instead of surviving the bureaucracy. That was intense, Sarah said, her voice shaking slightly. You okay? Evelyn glanced at her. Fine. You're really good at this, like, really good. Why aren't you a nurse? I am a nurse. I mean, like, a real one. Not just... Sarah stopped, her face flushing. Never mind. That came out wrong. I just meant, why aren't you doing trauma or ICU or something? You're better than half the people here. Evelyn didn't correct her. Didn't explain that she'd held medical certifications most people in this building would never qualify for. Didn't mention that she'd performed field surgery in conditions that would make this pristine ER look like a luxury resort. She gathered the soiled instruments, the blood-stained drapes, the debris of saving a life, and carried them to the sterilization room. Her hands moved on autopilot. Rinse, scrub, load, seal. Muscle memory. Different tools, different context. Same fundamental principle. She'd done this before. Just not here, just not like this. At midnight, Diane Merrick cornered her in the supply room. The small space was lined with shelves stocked with gauze, syringes, medications locked behind plexiglass, the mundane arsenal of modern healthcare. Diane closed the door behind her. The click of the latch was deliberate. "I need you to sign this," Diane said, thrusting a clipboard forward. Her nails were painted a deep red, the color of wine or warnings. Evelyn scanned the document. It was an incident report, completely falsified. It claimed she'd left controlled substances unsecured during the earlier trauma case, a violation serious enough to trigger termination and potentially criminal charges. "I didn't," Evelyn said quietly. "Sign it." "No." Diane's smile was sharp enough to cut. "Then you're fired." "You can't fire me for refusing to commit fraud. Watch me." Diane stepped closer, her perfume overwhelming in the small space. "You think anyone here will defend you? You're nothing, Brooks. A washed-up old woman who can barely keep a job cleaning bedpans. You don't have friends here. You don't have allies. You're invisible. Sign the paper, take the hit, and maybe I'll let you resign instead of being fired. At least you'll have that dignity." Evelyn held her gaze for 5 full seconds, counted each one internally. Then she set the clipboard down on the shelf, carefully, precisely. "Do what you have to do." Diane's face flushed red, the color creeping up from her collar. No one said no to her. No one challenged her. Not in 6 years. "Security!" Her voice was shrill now, losing its corporate polish. 2 guards appeared within seconds, materializing like they'd been waiting just outside. Big men, both of them. Bored expressions. Evelyn recognized one. Officer Rick Holt, a regular fixture at the hospital, always lounging near the vending machines on the 2nd floor, always making comments about the younger nurses, always smirking like the world was a joke only he understood. He was 42, overweight, with a face that had settled into permanent smugness. "Escort her out," Diane ordered, her voice regaining its edge. "She's terminated. Effective immediately. And if she resists, arrest her for trespassing." Holt grinned, showing teeth that hadn't seen a dentist in years. "My pleasure, ma'am." He grabbed Evelyn's arm, his grip tight enough to leave marks. She didn't resist, didn't pull away. He walked her through the ER, past nurses who suddenly found their charts fascinating, past doctors who didn't look up from their computer screens, past patients who watched with vague curiosity before returning to their own suffering. Sarah stood behind the main desk, her mouth open, her hand half raised like she wanted to say something. But she didn't. No one did. Outside, the rain was cold and relentless, the kind of October downpour that Ashford City was famous for. It soaked through Evelyn's scrubs within seconds. Holt shoved her toward the parking lot, his hand between her shoulder blades. "Move." "I need to get my things from my locker," Evelyn said, her voice even. "You don't need anything." He pushed her again, harder this time. She stumbled but didn't fall, her balance automatic, muscle memory compensating. Holt laughed. "What are you going to do, old lady? File a complaint? Sue? You got a lawyer hidden somewhere?" Evelyn straightened slowly, brushed the rain from her face with one hand. "No, that's what I thought." He turned to his partner, Officer Luis Vega, who stood by the patrol car with his arms crossed, rain dripping off his uniform hat. Vega was younger, maybe 30, with the kind of face that could have been kind once but had hardened into something else. "She's all yours if you want to write her up for trespassing." Vega smirked. "Nah, she's not worth the paperwork. Let her walk." Holt pulled out his phone, the screen bright in the darkness. He snapped a photo of Evelyn standing in the rain, white hair plastered to her head, scrubs clinging to her thin frame, looking exactly like what they thought she was, defeated, pathetic, irrelevant. He typed quickly, posted it to a private group chat the officers maintained, mostly for sharing memes and complaining about their shifts. His caption read, "Trash day at Silvergate. One old bitch down." 3 responses popped up immediately. Laughing emojis, a comment. "About time." Another, "She looks like she's going to cry." Evelyn didn't move. She just stood there, water dripping from her hair, running down her face like tears she wasn't shedding. Holt leaned in close, his breath smelling like coffee and onions. "You gonna cry?" "No," she said. "Then get lost. Go home. Go wherever old washed-up nurses go to die." She turned, walked toward the edge of the parking lot. Her car was parked in the back near the dumpsters, the spot reserved for the lowest-tier staff. A 2009 Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door and a crack spreading across the windshield. She didn't rush, didn't look back. Her footsteps were steady, measured, each one placed with precision. Behind her, Holt's radio crackled to life. "All units, we have a 1033 at Silvergate Medical Center. Armed suspects inside the ER. Multiple hostages reported. Repeat, armed suspects. Hostage situation in progress." Holt swore, fumbling for his radio. "This is Unit 12. We're on site. En route to ER entrance now." Vega was already running, his hand on his weapon. Holt followed, his earlier smugness replaced by something closer to panic. They disappeared through the sliding glass doors into the bright chaos of the hospital. Evelyn stopped walking. She stood in the rain for 3 seconds, counted them. Then she turned around and walked back. The ER was pandemonium. Screams echoed through the halls, raw and primal. Patients were pressed against walls, hands over their heads, eyes wide with the kind of fear that came from understanding mortality wasn't theoretical anymore. 3 men in dark jackets moved through the chaos, faces covered with black masks, guns drawn, shouting commands in voices hoarse from adrenaline. One of them grabbed a nurse, Maria, a single mother of 2 who always brought homemade cookies to share, and shoved her to the floor. She hit hard, her glasses skittering away. Another gunman fired a shot into the ceiling. Plaster rained down like snow, white dust settling on everything. "Where is he?" the lead gunman shouted, his voice distorted slightly by the mask. "Where's the witness? We know he's here." No one answered. Patients sobbed. Staff members froze, their training evaporating in the face of real violence. The gunman grabbed Dr. Cross by his white coat, lifting him slightly off his feet. "I said, where is he?" Cross stammered, his earlier arrogance gone, replaced by naked terror. I don't know who you're talking about. I swear I don't know." The gunman slammed him into the wall hard enough to crack the drywall. Cross's head snapped back. Blood appeared at his hairline. "Wrong answer." Holt and Vega burst through the side entrance, weapons drawn but shaking. Holt's training had been minimal, his experience limited to breaking up bar fights and writing traffic tickets. This was something else. "Police! Drop your weapons! Now!" The gunmen turned in unison. Professional. Coordinated. Not panicked. Shots rang out, the sound impossibly loud in the enclosed space. Holt dove behind the reception desk, scrambling, his radio flying from his belt. Vega returned fire, but his hands were shaking so badly the shots went wide, punching holes in the ceiling tiles. A bullet tore through the wall inches from his head, embedding itself in the doorframe. He dropped to the ground, breathing in ragged gasps. Evelyn slipped through the rear entrance that led from the parking garage. She moved along the wall, staying low, using the chaos as cover. No one noticed her. She was just another shadow in a building full of them, just another nobody trying to survive. One of the gunmen spotted movement near the supply closet. A young man, early 20s, wearing jeans and a hoodie, trying to hide behind a gurney. His face was pale, his eyes wild. He was the witness. Had to be. The gunman raised his weapon, finger tightening on the trigger. "There!" Evelyn stepped in front of him. The gunman blinked, momentarily confused by the appearance of a soaking wet nurse who looked like she'd been dragged through hell. "Move." "No," she said. He pressed the barrel of the gun directly against her chest, the metal cold even through her wet scrubs. "I said move, or I'll put a hole through you." She didn't. Her eyes met his through the mask, calm, unblinking, the kind of gaze that belonged to someone who'd seen death enough times to be on familiar terms with it. He hesitated, just for a fraction of a second, his brain processing the disconnect between what he was seeing and what should be happening. Fear was supposed to be there, begging was supposed to happen. That second of hesitation was enough. Evelyn's left hand shot up, faster than his brain could track, deflecting the barrel away from her body. Her right hand struck his throat with surgical precision, hitting the exact spot where the trachea was most vulnerable. He gasped, stumbled backward, his grip on the weapon loosening. She twisted the gun from his grip with a motion that looked effortless, but required exact knowledge of leverage points and joint angles. Then disassembled the magazine mid-motion with her thumb, dropping both pieces to the floor in two distinct metallic clatters. The whole sequence took less than 3 seconds. The gunman stared at her, wheezing, his hand clutching his throat. Evelyn stepped past him without a second glance, knelt beside the young witness. "Stay down. Don't move. Don't make a sound." He nodded frantically, his whole body trembling. Behind her, Holt's voice cracked across the space. "What the hell?" The lead gunman pivoted, fired 3 shots in rapid succession. Evelyn grabbed a metal instrument tray from a nearby cart, angled it at 45 degrees. The first bullet ricocheted off it with a spark, embedding itself harmlessly in the wall. The second missed. The third she dodged by shifting her weight, her body moving with a fluidity that didn't match her age or her appearance. She hurled the tray like a discus, her arm snapping forward with perfect rotation. It struck the gunman's wrist, the edge catching bone. His gun clattered away, skittering across the wet floor. She was on him before he could react, before his brain could catch up with what his eyes were seeing. Elbow to the floating ribs, she felt them crack under the impact. Knee to the solar plexus, driving the air from his lungs. He crumpled, his mask sliding askew to reveal a face younger than she'd expected. Maybe 25. Scared now. The third gunman raised his weapon, his hand steady, his stance professional. Military training, she noted automatically. He had distance on her, at least 12 feet. She didn't have time to close it before he could fire. She calculated angles, trajectories, timing, running the numbers in her head faster than conscious thought. Then she moved. A spinning kick knocked the gun from his hand. Her foot connected with his wrist at the exact moment of maximum extension, using his own momentum against him. She followed through without pause, her body a weapon honed over decades. Palm strike to his jaw, angled upward and to the left to maximize the transfer of force to his brainstem. His head snapped back, his knees buckled. He went down hard, unconscious before he hit the ground. Silence. The kind of silence that followed violence, heavy and ringing. Holt stared at her from behind the desk, his mouth open, his weapon hanging loose in his hand. Vega stared at her from the floor, blood on his face from where debris had cut him. Sarah stared at her from behind a pillar, her entire worldview cracking. The patient stared. Dr. Cross stared, blood still dripping from his forehead. Everyone stared. Evelyn stood in the center of the ER, her scrubs soaked with rain and sweat, her breathing barely elevated. She looked down at the 3 gunmen, assessed them quickly, unconscious, disarmed, no longer a threat. Then she turned and walked toward the exit, her footsteps leaving wet prints on the linoleum. "Wait!" Holt started, his voice strangled. The main entrance doors exploded inward with a bang that made everyone flinch. Military boots hit the floor in synchronized rhythm. Tactical gear. Black helmets. Weapons raised with professional precision. A full squad poured into the ER, 8, 10, 12 operators, moving like they'd done this 1,000 times. They fanned out with mechanical efficiency, each one covering a sector, voices sharp and controlled. Clear left. Clear right. 3 suspects down. Hostages secured. At the front of the formation was a man in his mid-40s, broad-shouldered, a scar cutting across his jaw like a fault line. His insignia marked him as a major. His eyes swept the room in one efficient motion, cataloging everything: downed gunmen, terrified hostages, incompetent local police, and he stopped, straightened, his weapon lowered, and he saluted. Sharp, crisp, the kind of salute reserved for superior officers. "Ma'am," he said, his voice carrying absolute respect. Evelyn didn't return it, just gave a single, barely perceptible nod. The major turned to his squad without breaking attention. "Secure the perimeter, collect all evidence, bag the suspects, treat every witness as a potential asset, extract statements. No one leaves until we've cleared them." He looked back at Evelyn, his expression unreadable. "We need to talk." "No," she said quietly. "It's not a request. I'm not active." "You are now." His tone left no room for argument. Holt pushed himself up from behind the desk, confusion and anger mixing on his face. He wasn't used to being irrelevant. "Wait, who the hell is she?" I'm the responding officer here. This is my scene. The major didn't look at him, didn't even acknowledge he'd spoken. Above your clearance. Like hell it is. I've got jurisdiction. Not anymore. The major pulled out his phone, dialed a number from memory. The call connected instantly. Sir, we have a situation at Silvergate Medical Center. Armed assault, hostage scenario, suspects neutralized. Affirmative. She's here. A pause. He listened. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. Understood, sir. He hung up, looked at Evelyn. They want you back in. No, she said again, her voice flat. Then they'll come get you themselves. You know they will. Evelyn's jaw tightened, the only external sign of the conflict inside. She turned toward the exit again. The major stepped into her path, blocking it. Not aggressive, but immovable. You walk out now, and everyone in this building dies. They're coming for the witness. This was just the first wave. You know how this works. Evelyn stopped, stared at him. How many? Unknown, but they're funded, organized, and connected deep. Local PD's compromised, at least 3 officers on their payroll, maybe more. Half the hospital board's dirty. The witness in there? He jerked his head toward the young man still hiding behind the gurney. He saw a transaction, names, faces, money. They'll burn this whole place down to silence him. Evelyn's eyes flicked to Diane Merrick, who stood frozen near the administrative desk, her perfect composure shattered. Their eyes met across the chaos. Diane's face went pale. She looked away first, her hands trembling. Evelyn turned back to the major. What do you need? Everything you've got. She nodded once. The major gestured to one of his operators. Get her a comm link, full tactical access, authorization code Ghost Angel. The operator's head snapped up. Even through his visor, his shock was visible. Sir, that's... I know what it is. Do it. The operator moved immediately, pulling a compact radio from his pack. He handed it to Evelyn with something approaching reverence. The major looked at her, and for the first time, something like a smile touched his scarred face. Call sign? She hesitated. The name was from another life. Another version of herself she'd buried. But the dead didn't always stay buried. Sometimes they clawed their way back up. Ghost Angel, she said quietly. The major's smile widened slightly. Welcome back, ma'am. Behind them, more vehicles pulled up outside. Through the rain-streaked windows, Evelyn could see them. Armored trucks, tactical vans, a mobile command center. This wasn't a rescue operation. This was preparation for war. And somewhere in the distance, barely audible over the rain, sirens wailed. Evelyn clipped the comm link to her scrubs, the weight familiar despite the years. The operator who'd handed it to her stepped back, his expression hidden behind the visor, but his posture screaming disbelief. The major was already barking orders into his own radio, his voice clipped and efficient. I need a perimeter 3 blocks out, no one in or out without clearance. Get me building schematics for Silvergate, all floors, all exits. And someone find out who the hell authorized only 3 men for a hit this sloppy. Evelyn moved toward the young witness, who was still crouched behind the gurney, his whole body shaking. She knelt beside him, her movements slow, non-threatening. Up close, he looked even younger, 22, maybe 23, acne scars on his cheeks, a tattoo peeking out from under his hoodie sleeve, something tribal that probably meant more to him than it did to anyone else. His eyes were red-rimmed, his breathing shallow. What's your name? She asked quietly. Trevor. His voice cracked. Trevor Moss. You saw something. He nodded frantically. I didn't mean to. I deliver food, you know. DoorDash? I was dropping off an order at this warehouse on Kemper Street and the door was open and I saw... He stopped, swallowed hard. I saw them. Loading people into a truck, like real people. Women. Some of them were crying, and this guy, he turned around and looked right at me, and I ran. Did you go to the police? Yeah, yesterday. I filed a report with some detective. He said he'd look into it. Trevor's laugh was bitter, edged with hysteria. Guess he looked into it real good, huh? Next thing I know, these guys are hunting me. Someone told them. Someone had to have told them. Evelyn glanced over her shoulder. Holt and Vega were standing near the entrance, both of them looking lost, their authority stripped away by the arrival of actual professionals. Diane Merrick had disappeared, probably hiding in her office, trying to figure out how to spin this into something that wouldn't destroy her career. Dr. Cross was being treated by one of the tactical medics, his earlier arrogance replaced by shock. Sarah watched from behind a pillar, her eyes fixed on Evelyn like she was trying to reconcile two incompatible versions of reality. The major approached, his boots leaving wet prints on the floor. "Ma'am, we've got confirmation. The network's bigger than we thought. Not just trafficking, organ trade, blackmail, money laundering. They've got people embedded in city government, hospital administration, law enforcement. This kid stumbled onto a billion-dollar operation." "How long until the second wave?" Evelyn asked. "Unknown. Could be an hour, could be 10 minutes. They'll come heavy this time. The first team was just a test, see how we'd respond, what kind of resistance they'd face. Now they know." Evelyn stood. "Then we don't wait for them. We move first." The major's scarred face split into something that wasn't quite a smile. "I was hoping you'd say that." He pulled out a tablet, swiped through several screens, then turned it toward her. A map of Ashford City appeared, marked with red dots. "These are the locations we've identified so far. Warehouses, safe houses, shell companies. The witness saw activity at this one." He tapped a dot on Kemper Street, but the operation's centralized somewhere else. "We hit the wrong location. They scatter. We need the head, not the limbs. Uppars." Evelyn studied the map. 12 locations. Too many. The dots formed a pattern, though, clustered around the industrial district near the river, spreading out toward the old factory quarter. She traced a line between them with her finger, her mind running calculations. Logistics. Supply chains. Access points. "Here," she said, tapping a location near the waterfront. Abandoned steel mill, multiple access routes by water and road, large enough to process volume, isolated enough to avoid attention. The major zoomed in on the location. The satellite image showed a sprawling complex of rusted buildings and overgrown lots. "What makes you sure?" "Because that's where I'd run it from." He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Good enough for me." He turned to his squad. "We're moving out, split into 3 teams. Team 1 takes point, Team 2 secures the perimeter, Team 3 extracts the witness and holds the hospital. Ghost Angel has operational command. One of the operators, a woman by her build, though the tactical gear made it hard to tell, stepped forward. "Sir, with respect, shouldn't we wait for confirmation? If we hit the wrong location, we don't have time for confirmation," the major cut her off. "They're regrouping right now. Every minute we wait, they're moving assets, destroying evidence, killing witnesses. We go now or we lose them." The operator hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, sir." Evelyn turned towards the exit. The major fell into step beside her. "You'll need gear." "I'll need a vehicle." "We've got armored transports outside." "No, something fast, something that doesn't scream military." He pulled out his keys, tossed them to her. "Black SUV, license plate 7 Delta 93. It's mine. Don't scratch it." She caught them one-handed. "I'll try." They pushed through the doors into the rain. The parking lot had transformed into a tactical staging area. Trucks, vans, operators moving with purpose. Floodlights cut through the darkness, turning the rain into silver streaks. Evelyn found the SUV, a late-model Escalade with tinted windows and reinforced plating that probably wasn't street legal. She climbed into the driver's seat. The major took the passenger side. "You're coming?" she asked. "Someone's got to make sure you don't disappear again." She started the engine. It purred to life, the kind of purr that came from expensive modifications. "I wasn't planning to." "You weren't planning to 6 years ago either." She pulled out of the lot, tires kicking up spray. The major keyed his radio. "All teams, this is command. We are en route to primary target. ET. A 15 minutes. Maintain radio silence until I give the green light." Evelyn drove fast but controlled, her hands steady on the wheel. The streets of Ashford City were mostly empty at this hour, just after 1 in the morning. Streetlights cast orange pools on the wet asphalt. A homeless man pushed a shopping cart across an intersection, oblivious to the war about to unfold. The city looked peaceful. It wasn't. "You want to tell me what happened?" the major asked after a few minutes of silence. "No. You disappeared. No warning, no explanation, just gone. We looked for you for 2 years. I didn't want to be found." "Why?" Evelyn didn't answer. The major didn't push. They drove in silence for another mile before he spoke again. The kid back there. Trevor. He's got a mother in Idaho, 2 younger sisters. One of them's in college, pre-med. I know what you're doing. Just thought you should know who you're saving. I'm not saving him, I'm stopping them. Same result. Different motivation. The major laughed, a sound like rocks tumbling. You always were clinical. They crossed the bridge into the industrial district. The landscape changed, abandoned buildings, overgrown lots, the skeletal remains of a city's manufacturing past. Graffiti covered every available surface. Broken windows stared like dead eyes. Evelyn slowed, scanning for movement. Nothing. The streets were empty, but that didn't mean they were safe. Her comlink crackled. Command, this is Team 1. We're in position 2 blocks north of the target. No visible activity. The major keyed his radio. Hold position. Do not engage until Ghost Angel gives the signal. Evelyn turned down a side street, killed the headlights. The steel mill loomed ahead, a massive structure of rust and decay. Chain link fencing surrounded it, topped with barbed wire that had gone orange with oxidation. Signs warning of trespassing hung at intervals, faded and bullet-riddled. The main gate was chained shut, but Evelyn spotted a section of fence that had been cut and poorly repaired. Someone's entrance point. She parked the SUV in the shadow of a collapsed warehouse, grabbed a flashlight from the glove compartment. The major checked his weapon, a compact assault rifle with attachments she didn't recognize. New tech. She'd been out of the game too long. You armed? He asked. No. He pulled a pistol from an ankle holster, offered it to her. Glock 19, 15 rounds, safety's here. She took it, checked the chamber, verified the magazine. Muscle memory. Thanks. Don't thank me yet. They moved toward the fence on foot, staying low, using the terrain for cover. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the ground was slick with mud and oil. Evelyn's scrubs were still soaked, clinging to her like a second skin. She should have been cold. She wasn't. Adrenaline had a way of warming you from the inside. They slipped through the gap in the fence. The steel mill stretched out before them, multiple buildings connected by covered walkways, rusted conveyor systems frozen mid-operation, piles of scrap metal slowly being reclaimed by weeds. Evelyn paused, listened. The rain masked most sounds, but underneath it she heard something else. A low hum. Generators. The major heard it too. He pointed toward the largest building, the old processing center. Evelyn nodded. They moved in tandem, each covering the other's blind spots, a rhythm they'd performed hundreds of times in another life. The side door to the building was newer than it should have been, steel, reinforced, with a keypad lock. Someone had upgraded security. Can you bypass it? The major whispered. Evelyn knelt, examined the panel. Standard commercial system. She pulled a hairpin from her soaked bun, straightened it, slid it into the access port. 20 seconds later, the lock clicked open. Show off, the major muttered. Inside, the building was a study in contrasts. The outer shell was decay, but the interior had been renovated. Concrete floors poured smooth, LED lighting strung along the ceiling, new walls dividing the massive space into sections. The hum of generators was louder here, joined by the whir of ventilation systems. This wasn't abandoned. This was active. They moved deeper, weapons ready. The first room they passed was storage, crates stacked floor to ceiling, unmarked except for serial numbers. Evelyn used a pry bar she found on a workbench to open one. Inside, medical supplies, IVs, surgical instruments, blood bags. All of it sterile, packaged, legitimate. Except it wasn't. This wasn't hospital surplus. This was prep. The next room made her stomach turn. Hospital beds, 12 of them. Restraints attached to the rails, IV stands, monitoring equipment. One bed still had sheets, rumpled and stained. Someone had been here recently. Maybe still was. The major's expression darkened. He keyed his radio. All teams, we have confirmation. This is an active site. Prepare to breach on my signal. They continued through the building. Voices ahead. 2, maybe 3 people. Evelyn raised a hand, signaling the major to stop. They pressed against the wall, inching forward. The voices grew clearer. Shipment leaves at 4. 3 packages, all prepped and ready. The buyers are already en route. What about the witness? The kid? Handled. Or it will be. The hospital's crawling with cops now, but they won't stay forever. We'll get him. And if we don't? A pause. Then a third voice, older, authoritative. Then we shut it all down, burn the sites, move the operation to Baltimore. We've got contingencies. Evelyn peered around the corner. 3 men in a makeshift office, folding table, laptop, stacks of cash in banded bundles. 2 were muscle, armed with handguns. The third was older, 50s, wearing an expensive suit that looked absurd in the industrial setting. He was on a sat phone, pacing. The major's hand tightened on his weapon. Evelyn shook her head. Not yet. They needed information, not bodies. She pulled back, gestured for him to follow. They retreated to the previous room. We need to know where the packages are, she whispered. I can call in the teams, sweep the whole building. Too slow. They'll execute the hostages the second they hear boots. Then what? Evelyn thought for a moment. I go in. Alone. You cover the exits. That's suicide. No. That's what I do. Before he could argue, she was moving. She stripped off her soaked outer scrub top, leaving just the tank top underneath. Grabbed a white lab coat hanging on a hook, someone's discarded disguise. Pulled her hair down, letting it hang wet and messy around her face. Smeared mud on her cheek. Transformed herself from operator to victim in 30 seconds. The major watched, shaking his head. You're insane. Probably. She walked out into the hallway, stumbling slightly, making noise. Footsteps immediately. The 2 muscle guys, weapons drawn. They rounded the corner, saw her, hesitated. She looked up, eyes wide, terrified. Please, please help me. I don't know where I am. They took me and I woke up here and... One of them lowered his weapon slightly. How did you... She moved, palm strike to his throat, exactly like she'd done in the hospital. He went down choking. The second one tried to raise his gun. She grabbed his wrist, twisted, used his momentum to slam him into the wall. His head bounced off concrete. He crumpled. The older man appeared in the doorway, his sat phone still in his hand. His eyes widened. Evelyn raised the pistol the major had given her, aimed it at his chest. Don't. He froze. Who are you? Where are the hostages? I don't know what you're talking about. She shot him in the leg. The suppressed round made a sound like a cough. He screamed, went down hard, clutching his thigh. Blood spread across his expensive pants. Where are they? Basement, he gasped. Sublevel. Through the blue door. Code is 4729. Please. Evelyn knocked him unconscious with the pistol grip. The major appeared beside her, his expression caught between impressed and horrified. We're adding excessive force to your file. I don't have a file anymore. You do now. They found the blue door. Evelyn punched in the code. The lock clicked. The door opened onto a stairwell leading down into darkness. The smell hit them first. Human waste, fear, desperation. They descended, weapons ready. The basement was exactly what she'd expected, and worse. Cages. Actual cages, the kind you'd use for large animals. And inside them, people. Women, mostly. Some men. All of them thin, dirty, eyes hollow. They flinched when the light hit them. The major swore, a long stream of profanity that echoed in the space. He keyed his radio. All teams, breach now. Repeat, breach now. We have hostages in the basement. Get medical down here immediately. The building erupted with noise. Boots, shouts. The tactical teams poured in, securing rooms, clearing corners. Evelyn moved through the cages, checking each one. 17 people total. Some unconscious. Some too weak to stand. One woman grabbed her arm as she passed, her grip surprisingly strong. Are you real? She whispered. Yes, Evelyn said. Promise? Promise. The woman started crying. Evelyn moved on. There was a separate room at the back, smaller, reinforced. The door was locked from the outside. She shot the lock off, kicked the door open. Inside, 3 people on gurneys, sedated, IVs in their arms. Their abdomens were bandaged, fresh surgical incisions. The major appeared behind her, looked at the scene, his jaw clenched. They were harvesting organs. Evelyn checked the nearest patient's vitals. Alive, barely. Get the medics down here now. Already on the way. The next 20 minutes were controlled chaos. Medics flooded the basement, triaging the hostages. Operators secured the building, arrested the men Evelyn had taken down, plus 4 others they found trying to escape through a back tunnel. The woman who'd grabbed Evelyn's arm refused to let go, even when the medics tried to help her. Evelyn stayed, let her hold on, whispering reassurances she wasn't sure she believed. The major coordinated everything with brutal efficiency, his voice steady over the radio, issuing orders, requesting additional resources. Ambulances lined up outside. Police, the real ones, not the corrupted locals, established a perimeter. News helicopters appeared overhead, their spotlights cutting through the rain. Evelyn finally extracted herself from the woman's grip, promised she'd come back. She climbed the stairs, emerged into the main floor. One of the operators approached her, holding a laptop. "Ma'am, you need to see this." The laptop displayed a spreadsheet. Names, dates, dollar amounts. And in the notes column, destinations. Some were organ buyers, some were trafficking clients, and some were officials, police captains, city council members, hospital administrators. She scrolled down, her expression unchanging. Halfway through, she found a familiar name, Diane Merrick. Multiple transactions, hundreds of thousands of dollars. "Copy everything," she told the operator. "Send it to federal prosecutors, the FBI, and every major news outlet in the state." "Ma'am, shouldn't we go through proper channels first?" "No, proper channels are compromised. Send it everywhere. Let them all burn at once." The operator hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, ma'am." The major appeared at her elbow. "We found the organ buyers. They were waiting at a private airfield 15 miles out. The FBI's got them now." "Good. The hostages are being transported to County General. Most will survive. The 3 with surgical incisions?" He trailed off. "Touch and go." Evelyn nodded. She felt nothing. That was the problem with this work. After a while, you couldn't afford to feel. Feeling slowed you down, made you hesitate, got people killed. They walked outside together. Dawn was starting to break, the sky turning from black to gray. The rain had stopped. Puddles reflected the emergency lights, turning everything red and blue. Evelyn leaned against the SUV, suddenly aware of how exhausted she was. Her body ached. Her clothes were filthy. She probably smelled like a dumpster. The major lit a cigarette, offered her one. She shook her head. He shrugged, took a drag. "You did good work tonight." "We did good work. I'm reinstating you. Full rank, full benefits, full clearance. You're back on the active roster." "No, it's not optional." "Everything's optional." He studied her through the smoke. "Why did you leave?" Evelyn looked at the building, at the stretchers being loaded into ambulances, at the operators processing evidence. "Because I couldn't do this anymore." "Seems like you can." "I didn't say I couldn't. I said I couldn't." She pushed off the SUV. "There's a difference." "Is there?" Before she could answer, her comm link crackled. A voice she didn't recognize. "Command, this is Oversight. We have a situation at Silvergate Medical. The witness, Trevor Moss, he's gone." The major's face went pale. "Define gone." "Taken. 5 minutes ago. 2 men, professional, fast. They got past our security somehow. Left 3 operators unconscious." "How is that possible? We had a full team. They knew our protocols, knew our positions. Someone fed them intel." Evelyn was already moving toward the SUV. The major followed, his cigarette forgotten. "Ghost Angel, wait. They have the witness. They'll kill him. We don't even know where they're taking him." Evelyn climbed into the driver's seat. "Yes, we do." "Where?" She started the engine. "The same place they took everyone else. The place we missed." "What are you talking about? We hit the main site." "This wasn't the main site. This was a processing center. The real operation is somewhere else." She pulled up the map on the tablet, studied the red dots again. There was a pattern she'd missed before. All the locations formed a perimeter around a single point, a location not marked on the map. She zoomed in. An address appeared, 1847 Riverside Drive. According to the satellite image, it was a luxury apartment complex. High-end. Secure. The last place anyone would look. The major saw it too. "Son of a bitch," Evelyn threw the SUV into gear. "Get your teams there now." "You're not going alone." But she was already gone, tires squealing as she accelerated into the breaking dawn. The comm link erupted with chatter, the major coordinating teams issuing orders, trying to catch up. Evelyn ignored it. She drove with single-minded focus, the city blurring past. Riverside Drive was in the financial district, where glass towers met the waterfront and money insulated people from reality. The apartment complex was exactly what she'd expected. Sleek, modern, valet parking, doorman in a crisp uniform. She pulled up to the entrance doing 60, braked hard. The SUV's reinforced bumper took out the decorative gate. The doorman ran. She was inside before security could react. The lobby was marble and gold, designer furniture, abstract art that probably cost more than most people made in a year. A woman in a business suit stood frozen behind the concierge desk. Evelyn pointed the Glock at her. "Penthouse, how do I get there?" I can't." Evelyn fired a round into the ceiling. Plaster rained down on the expensive rug. "How?" The woman's hand shook as she pointed to a private elevator. You need a key card." "Give it to me." The woman fumbled behind the desk, produced a gold card. Evelyn grabbed it, headed for the elevator. Behind her, security guards appeared, weapons drawn. She didn't stop. The elevator doors closed just as the first guard reached her. She heard him pounding on the metal, shouting. She ignored it. The elevator rose smoothly, classical music playing softly from hidden speakers. Evelyn checked the Glock's magazine. 8 rounds left. Not enough. It would have to be. The doors opened directly into the penthouse, and Evelyn knew immediately she'd made a mistake. The space was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river, furniture that belonged in a museum, lighting designed to showcase wealth. And standing in the center of it all, a gun pressed to Trevor Moss's head, was someone Evelyn recognized. Dr. Nathan Cross smiled at her. "Hello, Brooks. Glad you could join us." Trevor's eyes were wide with terror, tears streaming down his face. The gun pressed against his temple was a chrome-plated .45, expensive and unnecessary for the job, which told Evelyn everything she needed to know about Cross's ego. The doctor stood relaxed, confident, his white coat replaced by an Italian suit that probably cost more than Evelyn made in 6 months. Behind him, floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Ashford City skyline, the river catching the early morning light. Evelyn kept the Glock level, aimed at Cross's center mass. "Let him go." "Or what? You'll shoot me?" Cross laughed, the sound bouncing off the marble floors. "You've got 8 rounds left. I counted. You're a decent shot, Brooks, but not good enough to guarantee you won't hit the kid. And we both know you won't take that risk." He was right. The angle was wrong. Trevor positioned as a human shield, Cross's head barely visible behind him. A center mass shot might penetrate and hit the witness. A headshot was possible but not certain, not with Trevor struggling, not with Cross moving. Evelyn's finger stayed off the trigger. She was counting variables, running probabilities, calculating outcomes. "How long have you been running this?" she asked, buying time. Her comlink was still active. The major would be listening, teams would be en route, and Cross shrugged. 3 years. Started small, just skimming organs from patients who wouldn't be missed. Homeless, addicts, people the system had already failed. Then Diane approached me with a bigger opportunity. Turns out half the hospital board was looking for ways to monetize their assets. Bodies are assets, Brooks, especially ones that come pre-sorted by the ER. Diane Merrick. Among others, "You know what trauma surgeons make, even good ones? It's insulting. I spent 12 years in school, another 6 in residency, and for what? To fix drunk drivers and gangbangers while administrators like Merrick pull in twice my salary for pushing paper?" His grip tightened on Trevor. "I earned this." Evelyn's eyes flicked around the penthouse, cataloging details. 2 exits, the elevator she'd come through and a service door partially hidden behind a silk screen. Security cameras in the corners, but their lights were off. Cross had killed the feed. Smart. The furniture was positioned to create clear sight lines, but also obstacles. A marble coffee table between her and Cross. A leather sofa to her right. Decorative columns that were probably structural. She was mapping the space, building a tactical model in her head. "The military's on their way," she said. "You're not walking out of here." "Actually, I am," Cross gestured with his free hand toward the windows. "Private helicopter on the roof. Pilot's already warming it up. In 10 minutes, I'll be crossing state lines. In 10 hours, I'll be in a country with no extradition treaty." "You think you're the first person to figure this out?" We've had contingencies in place since day one. Trevor whimpered. Cross pressed the gun harder against his skull. Shut up. Evelyn adjusted her stance slightly, weight shifting to the balls of her feet. You kill him, you lose your leverage. I don't need leverage. I need a distraction. Cross's smile widened. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to put down your weapon and step back. Then I'm going to take the kid to the roof. If anyone follows me, I shoot him. If anyone tries to stop the helicopter, I shoot him. Once I'm clear, I'll dump him somewhere he can be found, maybe. You're lying. Probably. But you don't know for sure, do you? That's the thing about people like you, Brooks. You can't take the chance. You'll sacrifice yourself to save some nobody who's already half dead from fear. He tilted his head. Drop the gun. Evelyn's mind raced. Cross was wrong about one thing. She absolutely could take the chance. She'd made harder calls in worse situations. But he was right about another thing. She wouldn't. Not because she was noble, but because once you started weighing lives on a scale, you became what you were fighting against. She lowered the Glock. Didn't drop it, just lowered it to her side. Good, Cross said. Now put it on the floor and kick it toward me. No. His expression darkened. I'll kill him right now. Then you lose your shield, and I put 2 rounds through your face before you can blink. You're good at a lot of things, Cross, but you're not fast. Your hands are shaking. You've never actually killed anyone before, have you? The gun trembled slightly against Trevor's temple. Evelyn had hit a nerve. Cross was a surgeon, a manipulator, a profiteer. But pulling a trigger on someone looking at you, watching you, begging, that was different than harvesting organs from sedated patients. You don't know what I'm capable of, Cross said, but his voice had lost some of its edge. I know exactly what you're capable of. You're capable of stealing, lying, hiding behind people who do the actual dirty work. But you've never done it yourself. Cross's jaw clenched. You think you're better than me? I know I am. You're a washed-up nurse who cleans bedpans for minimum wage. I'm a surgeon. I save lives. You end them. I maximize utility. Some people are worth more dead than alive. That's just economics. Evelyn's finger twitched near the trigger. She wanted to shoot him, wanted it badly enough that it surprised her. She'd killed before, more times than she could count, but always with clinical detachment. This felt different. This felt personal. Behind Cross through the window, she spotted movement. A black tactical helicopter rising into view, rotors cutting the air. Not Cross's escape vehicle. Military. The Major's team arriving faster than she'd expected. Cross hadn't noticed yet. His attention fixed on Evelyn. She needed to keep him talking. Diane Merrick gave you up. Bullshit. We found her laptop. Spreadsheets. Transactions. Your name was all over it. She's already cutting a deal with federal prosecutors, giving up everyone to save herself. Cross's face flushed red. That bitch. I told her to... He stopped, realizing he'd been baited. Evelyn pressed. She said you were the mastermind, that she was just following orders, that you threatened to kill her if she didn't cooperate. She's lying! Probably, but her lawyers are better than yours. She'll be out in 5 years. You'll die in prison. The helicopter outside maneuvered closer, its searchlight dark, approaching in tactical silence. Cross was still oblivious, too focused on defending himself. I built this operation, me, not her. She was just the access point. I recruited the buyers, I set up the logistics, I made millions. Trevor moved. Not much, just a slight twist of his body, creating an inch of space between himself and Cross. It wasn't intentional, just a reflex of fear. But it was enough. Evelyn saw the opening. She fired twice. The first shot hit Cross's right shoulder, the one holding the gun. The second hit his left knee. Both shots were precise, calculated to incapacitate without killing. Cross screamed, went down hard. The chrome .45 clattered across the marble floor. Trevor stumbled away, sobbing. Evelyn was on Cross in 3 strides, kicking the gun away, pressing her boot against his wounded shoulder. He howled. You shot me! You'll live! I'm bleeding. I need a hospital. You need a lawyer. The service door behind the silk screen exploded inward. Tactical operators poured through, weapons raised, voices shouting commands. The Major was among them, his scarred face grim. He assessed the situation in a glance. Cross bleeding on the floor, Trevor huddled against the wall. Evelyn standing over both with the Glock still in her hand. "Clear!" the major barked. His team fanned out, securing the penthouse. Two of them grabbed Cross, hauled him upright despite his screaming. A medic moved to Trevor, checking him for injuries. The major approached Evelyn. "You couldn't wait 10 seconds for backup?" "He was going to run." "So you shot him?" "Twice. Remind me never to piss you off." He holstered his own weapon, gestured to his team. "Get Cross stabilized and into custody. I want him in an interrogation room in 20 minutes. The kid goes to County General, full protective detail. No one gets near him without my authorization." Evelyn lowered her weapon, suddenly aware of how exhausted she was. Her hands were steady, but her legs felt weak. Adrenaline crash. She'd pushed herself too hard for too long. The major noticed. "When's the last time you slept?" he asked. "Tuesday." "It's Thursday." "I know," he sighed. "Come on, let's get you out of here before the press shows up." They took the service elevator down to the parking garage. The major's team had already locked down the building, cleared the residence, established a perimeter. Outside, the sun was fully up now, burning off the morning fog. Evelyn climbed into the SUV, let the major drive. She stared out the window as they pulled away from Riverside Drive, watching the tactical team swarm the building like ants on a corpse. "How many people did Cross kill?" she asked after a few minutes of silence. "We don't know yet. Medical examiners pulling records now. Could be dozens. Could be more." "And Merrick?" "In custody, along with 12 other hospital staff, 6 police officers, and 4 city officials. The whole network's collapsing. By noon, the media is going to be all over this." Evelyn nodded. She felt nothing. Just numbness. She'd saved lives tonight, stopped monsters, done exactly what she'd been trained to do. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like maintenance. Like mowing a lawn that would just grow back. They drove in silence for a while. Eventually, the major spoke again. "You're a hero, you know. 17 people alive because of you. Maybe more. I'm not a hero, I'm a—" She stopped. Wasn't sure how to finish that sentence. "What?" "I don't know anymore." The major pulled into a parking lot adjacent to Silvergate Medical Center. The hospital looked different in daylight, smaller, less threatening, just a building. Police tape cordoned off the ER entrance. News vans had already set up camp across the street. "I meant what I said before," the major told her. "You're reinstated, full rank, full clearance. You can have any posting you want. DC, overseas, tactical training, name it." Evelyn shook her head. "I told you, I'm done." "You don't look done." "I don't want this anymore." "What do you want?" She didn't answer, didn't know how. What did she want? 6 years ago, she'd wanted peace, anonymity, a life where she didn't have to calculate kill zones and body counts. She'd wanted to be nobody, and for 6 years she'd gotten her wish. It had been empty and exhausting and suffocating, but it had been safe. "Think about it," the major said. "You don't have to decide right now. Take a few days, rest, process, but the offer's open." Evelyn climbed out of the SUV. Her scrubs were ruined, torn and stained with mud and blood. Her hair hung in wet tangles. She looked like a disaster. She felt like one too. The major leaned out the window. "Hey, Brooks." She turned. "You did good work. Whatever you decide, remember that." She nodded, turned away, started walking. She didn't know where she was going, just away. Behind her, the major's phone rang. She heard him answer, his voice sharp and professional. "Yeah? What? When?" "Son of a bitch. Lock down everything. I'm on my way." Evelyn stopped, turned back. The major was staring at his phone, his expression carved from stone. "What happened?" she asked. "Cross. He's dead." "What?" "Heart attack. 5 minutes ago. In custody, surrounded by guards and medics, and he just—" The major made a gesture of helplessness. They tried to resuscitate him. Nothing worked. Evelyn's mind immediately went to the possibilities. Poison. Pre-existing condition triggered by stress. Something implanted that could be activated remotely. "That wasn't a heart attack. Medical examiner will confirm. He was murdered. Someone didn't want him talking." The major's expression darkened. "You're saying someone inside our operation. I'm saying whoever's running this is bigger than Cross. Bigger than Merrick. We cut off a limb. The body's still out there." Before the major could respond, his radio crackled. "Command, This is oversight. We have a situation at County General. The witness, Trevor Moss. 2 men just walked past security, entered his room. Protective detail is down. Evelyn was running before the major could react. She sprinted across the parking lot toward the hospital entrance, ignoring the shouts behind her. The main doors were locked, shift change security protocol, but she spotted a side entrance used by staff. She kicked it open, the lock splintering. Inside, the hospital was chaos. Alarms blaring, staff running in different directions. She grabbed a passing nurse. Trevor Moss. What room? The nurse stared at her like she was insane. Who? The protective witness. What room? I don't know. I see you, maybe? 3rd floor? Evelyn released her and ran for the stairs. The elevator would be too slow. She took the stairs 3 at a time, her legs burning. 3rd floor. She burst through the door into the ICU wing. More alarms. A nurse's station abandoned. Room doors open, patients confused and scared. She heard the gunshot before she saw anything else. Room 307. She ran toward it, drawing the Glock. Still had 5 rounds left. The door was ajar. Inside, Trevor was on the floor, not the bed. He'd tried to run. Failed. 2 men stood over him, both in tactical gear, faces covered. Professional. Not panicked. One had a suppressed pistol aimed at Trevor's head. Evelyn fired through the doorway. Didn't have time for precision. The shot went wide, hitting the wall. The 2 men turned, surprised. She'd broken their timeline. The one with the pistol shifted his aim toward her. She dove left, rolled behind a crash cart. Return fire punched through the metal, shredding supplies. Trevor was screaming, crawling toward the bathroom. The second man grabbed him by his hoodie, dragged him back. Evelyn popped up, fired twice. Hit the second man in the chest. He went down. Body armor. She heard the impact, but he was still moving, just stunned. The first man was advancing on her position, firing methodically. Professional, trained, she was outgunned and trapped. The crash cart was disintegrating under the suppressed fire. She had 3 rounds left. Maybe 4. Wasn't sure. Her count might be off. She grabbed an oxygen tank from the cart, twisted the valve, hurled it toward the first man. He batted it aside, mistake. She'd been aiming for the wall behind him. The tank hit, bounced, rolled. She shot it. The tank exploded with a concussive boom that shook the room. Not a fireball like the movies, just a violent release of pressurized oxygen that sent the first man flying backward into the wall. His weapon clattered away. Evelyn was up, moving. She kicked his gun under the bed, struck him twice, throat, temple. He stopped moving. The second man had recovered, was raising his weapon again. Evelyn's Glock was empty. She'd fired her last round into the tank. She threw it at him anyway. He dodged. She closed the distance, grabbed his wrist, twisted, heard bone crack. He headbutted her. Stars exploded across her vision. She tasted blood. They grappled, crashing into medical equipment. He was stronger, younger, trained, but Evelyn was desperate. She drove her knee into his groin, once, twice. He grunted, his grip loosening. She got behind him, locked her arm around his throat, squeezed. Textbook blood choke. He struggled for 15 seconds, then went limp. She let him drop, stood gasping. Her face was bleeding where he'd headbutted her. Her ribs ached. Trevor was still on the floor, hyperventilating. She knelt beside him. "You're okay. You're safe. They tried to... I know. It's over." Footsteps in the hallway. Heavy. Multiple. Evelyn tensed, ready to fight with her bare hands if necessary. But it was the major and his team, weapons drawn. They swept into the room, assessed the scene. The major looked at Evelyn, then at the 2 unconscious men, then back at Evelyn. "You're bleeding," he said. "I'm fine." "You're really not." A medic appeared, tried to examine her. She pushed him away. "Check the kid first." The medic moved to Trevor. The major pulled Evelyn aside. "Those 2 aren't Cross's people. Look at their gear, military grade. This is something else." Evelyn had already noticed. The tactical vests, the weapons, the training. This wasn't local corruption. This was organized, professional. Someone's cleaning house. Who? Whoever's at the top. Cross and Merrick were middle management. The real power is still hidden. The major's radio crackled again. "Command, we've got a problem. Diane Merrick just died in custody. Same as Cross, heart attack." The major swore. Evelyn's mind was racing. 2 heart attacks within 20 minutes. Both in custody, both surrounded by witnesses. Not natural. Some kind of remote trigger. Something in their system that could be activated externally. Poison with a delayed timer, maybe? Or a toxin triggered by specific conditions. Stress hormones. Elevated heart rate. Check their medical records, Evelyn said. Look for recent procedures, implants, anything unusual. The major was already on it, barking orders into his radio. Evelyn leaned against the wall, trying to catch her breath. Her ribs definitely hurt. Might be cracked. She'd deal with it later. Trevor was being loaded onto a stretcher, sedated now, his vitals stabilizing. The medic approached Evelyn again. Ma'am, you need treatment. You're showing signs of a concussion. Later. That's not advisable. Later. The major finished his call, turned to her. You were right. Both Cross and Merrick had recent dental work. Same dentist. Dr. Raymond Voss, private practice in the financial district. We're sending a team now. It's already gone, Evelyn said. Whoever's running this is erasing evidence. By the time your team gets there, Voss will be dead or disappeared. Then what do we do? Evelyn thought for a moment. They were being reactive, always one step behind. Whoever was orchestrating this had planned for every contingency. Cross and Merrick had been liabilities, removed the moment they were captured. Trevor was still alive only because the first elimination team had failed. There would be more teams, more attempts. Unless we go public, she said. Right now, everything. Give Trevor's testimony to the media. Make him useless as a target. That'll blow the entire investigation? The investigation's already compromised. How did those two get past your security? How did they know exactly where Trevor was being held? Someone on your team is dirty. The major's face went pale. That's not possible. My people are vetted. Then someone's been turned. Blackmailed, bribed, threatened. Doesn't matter. The network's penetrated your operation. We can't trust any of this. The major looked around at his team, men and women he'd served with, trusted, relied on. One of them was a traitor. Maybe more than one. His hand moved toward his weapon, then stopped. What do you suggest? Get Trevor to a TV station. Live broadcast. Once his testimony is public, killing him accomplishes nothing. They'll come after him anyway. Send a message. Probably, but at least he has a chance. The major thought for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, we do it your way. He turned to his team. Listen up, new plan. We're taking the witness to Channel 7 News. Full protection detail, maximum security. No one outside this room knows where we're going until we're already there. Understood? The team nodded. Evelyn watched their faces, trying to spot the traitor. But they were all professionals, all showing the same focused expressions. Impossible to tell. They loaded Trevor into an armored ambulance, surrounded him with operators. Evelyn climbed in the back with him, despite the medic's protests. The major took the driver's seat. The convoy pulled out, 3 vehicles in formation, racing toward downtown. Trevor was awake again, the sedative wearing off. He looked at Evelyn. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Saving me. You don't even know me. Evelyn didn't answer right away. She was asking herself the same question. 6 years ago, she would have said duty, obligation, orders. But she didn't have orders anymore. She was doing this because why? Because she couldn't stop? Because some part of her still believed in something? Because no one else will, she finally said. Trevor was quiet for a moment. Then, those people you fought, they would have killed you. Yes. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Why? Evelyn looked at him. Really looked at him. He was just a kid. Barely out of college, probably. Working a delivery job to make rent. Had stumbled onto something evil and done the right thing. Gone to the police, tried to help. And for that, powerful people wanted him dead. It was unfair, unjust. The kind of thing that happened every day in 1,000 different ways. Because someone has to, she said. They were 10 blocks from the TV station when the explosion hit. The lead vehicle in their convoy erupted in a fireball, flipping end over end, crashing into a storefront. The major swerved, barely avoiding the debris. More explosions, improvised devices planted in the road, triggered remotely. The third vehicle was hit, its armored sides buckling inward. Ambush! Someone shouted over the radio. Gunfire erupted from the buildings on both sides. Automatic weapons, concentrated fire. The armored ambulance's windows cracked under the assault. The major was driving erratically, trying to break through, but they were boxed in, trapped in a kill zone. Evelyn grabbed Trevor, pulled him to the floor. "Stay down!" One of the operators was hit, blood spraying across the interior. Another returned fire through a gun port, his weapon roaring. The major was shouting coordinates into his radio, calling for backup, but backup would take time. They didn't have time. The ambulance lurched to a stop. The engine was hit, smoke pouring from the hood. The major swore, grabbed his rifle. "Everyone out! We need to move on foot!" They piled out into a war zone. Evelyn counted at least a dozen shooters, positioned in windows and rooftops, coordinated and professional. This wasn't improvised. This was planned. Someone had known their route, their timing, everything. The major's team returned fire, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. One operator went down, then another. Evelyn grabbed a rifle from a fallen operator, pulled Trevor behind a concrete barrier. "Run when I tell you to run!" "Where?" "Anywhere but here." She popped up, fired 3-round bursts at the nearest shooter, hit him. He fell. Another took his place. The major was coordinating defensive positions, but they were being cut apart. Blood on the pavement, screaming, the smell of cordite and burning rubber. A helicopter appeared overhead. For a moment, Evelyn thought it was reinforcements. Then it opened fire. The minigun's roar was deafening. Rounds tore through the street like a buzzsaw. The major's team scattered, seeking cover. Evelyn dragged Trevor into a nearby alley, bullets chewing up the concrete behind them. She could hear the major shouting orders, his voice almost drowned out by the gunfire. They ran deeper into the alley, looking for an exit. Dead end. Brick wall 10 feet high. Evelyn looked around desperately. A dumpster. She shoved it toward the wall, climbed on top, pulled Trevor up. They scrambled over the wall just as shooters entered the alley behind them. They dropped into another street, this one empty, evacuated by the sounds of battle. Evelyn's ears were ringing. Blood ran down her arm. She'd been grazed, hadn't even felt it. Trevor was sobbing, barely able to stand. She pulled him forward. "Move. We have to move." Behind them, the gunfire intensified. Then, suddenly, stopped. Silence more terrifying than noise. Evelyn's radio crackled. The major's voice strained. "Ghost Angel, if you can hear this, run. Get the witness out. They're..." Static. Then nothing. Evelyn and Trevor ran through empty streets, the sounds of death echoing behind them. She didn't know where she was going, just away. They turned a corner, found themselves on a busy commercial street. Normal people going about their day, oblivious to the massacre 3 blocks over. Evelyn flagged down a taxi, shoved Trevor inside. "Drive. Anywhere. Just drive." The driver stared at them, 2 people covered in blood and dirt, looking like refugees from a war zone. "I should call the cops." Evelyn pulled out a wad of cash from her pocket, everything she had, maybe $200, threw it at him. "Drive or I take your cab." He drove. They wound through the city streets randomly, Evelyn watching for tails. After 20 minutes, she told him to stop at a busy shopping mall. They got out, disappeared into the crowd. Evelyn bought new clothes from a department store, cheap jeans and a hoodie for Trevor, similar for herself. They changed in public bathrooms, dumped their bloody clothes in the trash. In the mirror, Evelyn examined her reflection. The cut on her forehead from the headbutt had stopped bleeding. Her ribs were definitely cracked. She could feel them grinding when she breathed. She looked old, worn, defeated. Trevor appeared beside her. "What do we do now?" Evelyn didn't answer. She was out of ideas. The military was compromised. The police were compromised. Cross and Merrick were dead. The major and his team were probably dead too. Whoever was running this operation had infinite resources and no hesitation about using them. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should have stayed invisible, Brooks. Now everyone you touch dies. Stand down or the body count gets worse." She stared at the message. They knew her real name. Had her number. Were watching her right now, probably. She looked around the mall, searching for cameras, for faces that didn't belong. Nothing obvious. But they were there. Trevor read the message over her shoulder. His face went pale. "They're going to kill me." "No. They already killed everyone else. I'm next. I won't let that happen." "How can you stop them? You're just one person." Evelyn looked at him. He was right. She was just one person, exhausted, injured, outgunned, outmaneuvered. She'd been running on fumes for the past 12 hours, operating on instinct and stubbornness. But instinct wasn't enough anymore. Stubbornness wouldn't stop bullets. Her phone buzzed again. Another text, same number. Check channel 7. You'll want to see this. She pulled up the news on her phone. The anchor's face was grave. Breaking news out of Ashford City. A terrorist attack this morning has left 14 military personnel dead, including Major David Kowalski of the Army's Special Operations Command. Authorities are searching for 2 suspects. Trevor's photo appeared on screen, then hers. Not a recent one. A photo from her military days, younger, harder looking. Identified as Trevor Moss and Evelyn Brooks, both believed to be armed and extremely dangerous. If you see these individuals, do not approach. Contact law enforcement immediately. Trevor stared at the screen. They're saying we did it. They're saying we killed those people. Evelyn's mind raced. It was perfect. The ultimate cleanup. Pin the whole operation on 2 people who were already being hunted. Make them the villains. When they were eventually killed resisting arrest, the case would close. The real power would remain hidden. She turned off her phone, pulled the battery. We need to disappear. For how long? Until I figure out who's doing this. And how are you going to do that? Evelyn looked at her reflection one more time. The woman staring back wasn't a nurse, wasn't a soldier, wasn't anything she recognized. Just a ghost, trying to remember what it meant to be alive. I'm going to make them come to me. Trevor stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Maybe she had. They were in a mall bathroom, hunted by every law enforcement agency in the state, framed for mass murder, and Evelyn was talking about setting a trap. That's insane. They have helicopters, drones, an army. What do you have? Evelyn pulled her hair back, twisted it into a knot. Her reflection showed someone who'd been awake for too long, bled too much, survived too many things that should have killed her. I have something they want. What? You. And proof they can't afford to let exist. She led Trevor out of the bathroom, through the mall's crowded corridors. They blended into the flow of shoppers, just 2 more people buying things they didn't need. Evelyn stopped at an electronics store, used cash to buy 2 burner phones and a USB drive. The clerk didn't look at their faces, just counted the money and bagged the items. Outside, they caught a city bus heading east. Evelyn chose seats in the back, near the emergency exit. Trevor kept glancing at other passengers, paranoid. An old woman with groceries, a teenager with headphones, a businessman texting. None of them looked dangerous. All of them could be. Where are we going? Trevor whispered. Somewhere they won't think to look. Where's that? The last place I lived before Silvergate. 20 minutes later, they got off in a neighborhood that had seen better decades. Cracked sidewalks, chain-link fences, houses with bars on the windows. Evelyn led Trevor down 3 blocks, turned into an alley, stopped at a green door with peeling paint. She knocked. 3 short, 2 long, 1 short. A code from another life. The door opened. A woman in her 60s stood there, gray hair and braids, reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. She looked at Evelyn, showed no surprise. I knew you'd come back eventually. Hello, Alice. Alice stepped aside. You look like hell. I've had a long night. They entered a small apartment that smelled like jasmine tea and old books. The walls were covered with photographs, family, friends, faces from decades past. Alice closed the door, locked 3 deadbolts, slid a chain into place. She looked at Trevor. Who's the kid? Witness to a trafficking operation. They're trying to kill him. They're trying to kill you, too. Saw it on the news. Terrorist attack. 14 dead. Alice moved to the kitchen. Started making tea without asking if they wanted any. That your work? No. Frame job. Figured. You never were sloppy. Alice filled a kettle, set it on the stove. How bad is it? Evelyn sat at the small kitchen table, every muscle in her body aching. Worse than anything I've handled before. The network goes high, city government, hospital administration, law enforcement. They've got resources and reach. Everyone who could testify against them is dead or disappeared. Except the kid. Except him. Alice brought over a first aid kit, older than Evelyn but well-stocked. She examined Evelyn's forehead, the cut from the headbutt. This needs stitches. Later. Now. Alice's tone left no room for argument. She cleaned the wound with antiseptic that burned, then stitched it with the efficiency of someone who'd done battlefield medicine. Evelyn didn't flinch. Trevor watched, his face pale. "Who is she?" he asked Evelyn. "Combat medic. We served together a long time ago." 15 years, Alice said, tying off the last stitch. "Syria, Afghanistan, places that aren't on maps." I patched her up more times than I can count, lost count after Somalia. She moved to Evelyn's ribs, lifted her shirt. The bruising was already spectacular, purple and black spreading across her left side. Alice pressed gently. Evelyn hissed. "2 cracked ribs, maybe 3. You need to breathe shallow and avoid getting hit." "I'll try." "You're terrible at trying." Alice wrapped Evelyn's torso in compression bandages, tight but not restrictive. "What's your play?" Evelyn pulled out one of the burner phones. "I need to make a call. Untraceable." Alice disappeared into a back room, returned with a device that looked like it belonged in a spy movie. A small black box with antenna. "Scrambler. Routes through 12 proxies. Won't give them a location for at least 10 minutes. That enough?" "Has to be." Evelyn dialed a number she'd memorized years ago, one that was supposed to be for emergencies only. It rang 4 times. Then a voice answered, female, clipped and professional. "Secure line Delta 7. Authenticate." "Ghost Angel. Authorization code November Victor 33-8. A pause. Keyboard clicking. "That code's been inactive for 6 years. I'm reactivating it. You're flagged as hostile. There's a kill order." "I know. That's why I'm calling. The kill order's fake. I need to speak to Director Castellanos." "Director Castellanos doesn't take calls from..." "Tell her Ghost Angel has evidence of a conspiracy inside the operation. Tell her Major Kowalski is dead and his team was ambushed by people who knew their route. Tell her this goes to the top, and if she doesn't talk to me in the next 60 seconds, the whole thing goes public." More keyboard clicking. The line went silent. Evelyn counted seconds. Trevor was watching her, eyes wide. Alice was brewing tea like this was a normal Thursday morning. At 53 seconds, a new voice came on, older, tired. "This is Castellanos. Director. Brooks. I heard you were dead. I was retired." "That's not the same thing." A long exhale. "I saw the news. Tell me you didn't kill my people." "I didn't. It was a setup. The convoy was ambushed by professionals with inside information. Someone on your end fed them our route." "That's a serious accusation." "It's the truth. Cross and Merrick both died in custody before they could talk. Heart attacks. Convenient. Whoever's running this operation has reach inside military intelligence, local law enforcement, and federal agencies. They're cleaning house and pinning it on me and the witness." Castellanos was quiet for a moment. "What evidence do you have?" "Spreadsheets from Merrick's laptop showing transactions, names, dates, amounts. Plus the witness saw the trafficking operation firsthand. He can identify locations and faces." "If what you're saying is true, everyone with access to that laptop is already dead or compromised." "Not everyone. I copied the files before the ambush." A lie, but a useful one. "They're on a secure drive. Insurance." "Where's the drive?" "Safe. And it stays safe until I know who I can trust." Another pause. Evelyn could hear Castellanos thinking, weighing options. "What do you want?" "A meeting. You, me, the witness, neutral location. You bring people you trust, and I mean really trust, people you'd bet your life on. I'll bring the evidence. We compare notes and figure out who the mole is." "And if I say no?" "Then the drive goes to every media outlet in the country. The whole operation burns, including the parts that are actually doing good work." Castellanos laughed, a sound like gravel. "You always were a pain in the ass, Brooks. Where and when?" Evelyn thought quickly. Needed somewhere public enough to discourage violence, but private enough to talk. "The old Riverside train station. Platform 3. 2 hours. That station's been closed for 5 years. Exactly. You'll know if anyone follows you. Come alone or with 2 people maximum. Armed, but holstered. The witness and I will already be there. You try anything cute, I disappear, and the evidence goes live." 2 hours. Don't be late." The line went dead. Evelyn set down the phone. Alice handed her a cup of tea. That was either very smart or very stupid. Probably both. Trevor was shaking his head. You just told them where we'll be. They'll send everyone. No. Castellanos wants the mole more than she wants me dead. If she's dirty, she'll come with overwhelming force. If she's clean, she'll come carefully. Evelyn sipped the tea. It was strong and bitter and exactly what she needed. Either way, we'll know. Alice sat down across from her. You need backup. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Alice pulled open a drawer, removed a compact pistol, checked it with practiced efficiency. I didn't spend 30 years keeping your ass alive just to let you die in a train station. Evelyn wanted to argue. Didn't. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. They spent the next 90 minutes preparing. Alice had a storage locker 2 blocks away filled with equipment from her active days. They retrieved body armor, lightweight vests that would stop handgun rounds but not rifles, comms units, binoculars, a medical kit. Alice moved through the checklist like she'd done it yesterday instead of years ago. Trevor watched them work. You were both soldiers. Soldiers is generous, Alice said. We were ghosts, the people they sent when soldiers weren't enough. How many of you were there? Doesn't matter. Most of us are dead now. The drive to Riverside Station took 20 minutes through side streets. The station was a relic from Ashford City's industrial peak, grand architecture left to rot when the train stopped running. Broken windows, graffiti-covered walls. The platform was overgrown with weeds pushing through cracked concrete. Evelyn and Alice scouted the location while Trevor waited in the car. 3 entrances. Multiple sight lines. Good cover, but also good ambush positions. Alice set up on a catwalk overlooking the platform, her rifle concealed in a maintenance bag. Evelyn positioned Trevor behind a concrete pillar with clear escape routes marked. If shooting starts, you run, she told him. Don't wait, don't look back, just run. What about you? I'll be fine. You keep saying that. I keep meaning it. She checked her watch. 5 minutes until the meeting. She scanned the station again, looking for movement. Nothing. Just pigeons and shadows. Her ribs ached with every breath. The stitches on her forehead pulled when she frowned. She was running on adrenaline and stubbornness, and both were running low. At exactly 2 hours, a black sedan pulled up to the station's south entrance. 3 people got out. Evelyn recognized Director Castellanos from briefings, a woman in her late 50s, gray hair cut short, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Evelyn's car. With her were 2 men, both obviously military, both carrying themselves like operators. They were armed, but their weapons were holstered. Castellanos walked onto the platform alone. Her escort stayed by the entrance, watchful but not aggressive. She stopped 20 feet from Evelyn, hands visible. Brooks. Director. You look like you've been through a war. I have. Several. Castellanos glanced around the abandoned station. Dramatic choice of venue. Seemed appropriate. Evelyn gestured for Trevor to step out. He did, reluctant, keeping the pillar between himself and the entrance. This is Trevor Moss, the witness. Castellanos studied him. You're the delivery driver who saw the trafficking operation. Trevor nodded, his voice shaking. I didn't mean to. I was just dropping off food and... I read the report. Castellanos turned back to Evelyn. You said you have evidence. Show me. Evelyn pulled out a USB drive. Not the one she'd bought at the mall. That one was empty, a decoy. This one she'd pulled from Alice's storage containing files from old operations. Castellanos wouldn't know the difference until she checked. Everything's here. Transactions, names, locations. Enough to dismantle the entire network. Castellanos held out her hand. Evelyn didn't move. First, tell me who you trust on your team. What? Your people. The ones you brought. You'd bet your life on them? Yes. Captain Martinez and Lieutenant Shaw. Both with me for 8 years. Clean records, clean finances, clean lives. What about Major Kowalski's team? Castellanos' expression darkened. All dead. The ambush killed everyone. Martinez and Shaw were on a different assignment. She stopped. You think the mole was on Kowalski's team? I think the mole fed the traffickers our route. Kowalski's team was hit too fast, too precisely. They knew exactly where we'd be and when. Kowalski handpicked that team, vetted them personally. Someone got through anyway. Evelyn took a step closer. Who had access to the route information? Castellanos thought for a moment. Kowalski. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Cole, the tactical planner, Sergeant Harris, and me. Cole and Harris. Where are they now? Cole's dead, killed in the ambush. Harris is in the hospital, critical condition. Evelyn's instincts flared. Harris survived. Barely. Took 3 rounds to the chest. Body armor saved him, but he's got internal bleeding. Surgeons are working on him now. Which hospital? County General. Why? Evelyn grabbed her phone, dialed the burner number she'd given Alice. Abort. Get out now. She turned to Castellanos. It's a trap. They're not here for me. They're here for you. Castellanos' hand moved toward her weapon. What are you? The explosion came from the south entrance. A massive fireball that consumed the sedan and threw Castellanos' 2 escorts backward like rag dolls. The shockwave hit Evelyn, knocked her down. Her ears rang. Trevor was screaming, but she couldn't hear it. Gunfire erupted from multiple positions. Shooters on the rooftops, in the windows, positions they'd scouted and prepared before anyone arrived. This wasn't an improvised ambush. This was planned. Someone had known about the meeting. Evelyn grabbed Castellanos, dragged her behind cover. The director was dazed, blood running from her nose. Harris! Evelyn shouted over the gunfire. Harris is the mole. He knew about the meeting because you told him. Castellanos' eyes went wide. I called him from the hospital, told him I was meeting you. He said... She stopped. He said he'd send backup. The backup had arrived. Evelyn counted at least 10 shooters, coordinated, professional. Alice was returning fire from the catwalk, her rifle barking in controlled bursts. One shooter went down, then another. But there were too many. Evelyn pulled Castellanos toward the back exit where Trevor was hiding. Martinez and Shaw, if they'd survived the explosion, were pinned down near the burning sedan. One of them was moving, trying to crawl to cover. The other wasn't moving at all. They reached Trevor. He was hyperventilating, pressed against the pillar. Evelyn grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. Breathe. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Breathe. He tried. Failed. Tried again. Managed something close to breathing. Castellanos was on her radio. This is Director Castellanos. I have a hostile situation at the old Riverside station. Multiple shooters, federal officer down, requesting immediate backup and air support. A voice crackled back. Director, we show your location as... Static. Then nothing. They're jamming us, Castellanos said. She drew her weapon, checked the magazine. How do we get out? Evelyn pointed to a maintenance tunnel on the east side. Through there, comes out 2 blocks away. That's a kill funnel. It's the only way. Alice's voice came through Evelyn's earpiece. I'm almost out of ammunition. Whatever you're going to do it fast. Evelyn looked at Castellanos. Can you run? Can you? Guess we'll find out. Evelyn turned to Trevor. When I say go, you run for that tunnel. Don't stop. Don't look back. Understand? He nodded, tears streaming down his face. Evelyn grabbed a chunk of concrete, hurled it toward the shooters, drew their fire. Then she shouted, Go! Trevor ran. Castellanos followed. Evelyn laid down, covering fire with her pistol. 5 rounds left. 4. 3. The shooters converged on the tunnel entrance. Alice took down 2 more from her perch. Evelyn's pistol clicked empty. She threw it, grabbed Trevor's collar, shoved him into the tunnel. They were in darkness. The tunnel smelled like rust and stagnant water. Footsteps echoed behind them, the shooters following. Evelyn felt along the wall, found a side passage, pulled them in. They pressed against the cold concrete, holding their breath. The shooters ran past, their flashlights cutting through the dark. 6 of them, moving in formation. Professional. They'd clear the tunnel, realize their targets weren't there, double back. Evelyn had maybe 2 minutes. She led Castellanos and Trevor deeper into the side passage. It opened into an old maintenance room, rusted pipes, broken equipment, a ladder leading up. Evelyn climbed first, pushed open a heavy grate. Daylight. They emerged in an alley 3 blocks from the station. Sirens wailed in the distance, real backup arriving, too late. Alice was waiting with the car, her rifle in the trunk, her face streaked with sweat. That went well, Evelyn almost laughed. Define well. They piled into the car. Alice drove, fast but controlled, blending into traffic. Castellanos was on her phone, a different one, not the compromised radio. This is Castellanos, authorization Alpha 79. I need a secure line to the deputy director. Yes, I'll wait. She covered the phone, looked at Evelyn. Harris has been with me for 3 years. Commendations, clean record. How did I miss it? Because he was good. They're all good. Castellanos' call connected. She spoke rapidly, outlining the situation. Evelyn only heard half of it. Ambush, mole, trafficking network, federal officers down. When she finished, she hung up. They're pulling Harris out of surgery. He'll be in custody within the hour. He won't talk, Evelyn said. They never do. Whoever's running this has leverage, probably threatened his family or has something on him. He'll lawyer up and say nothing. Then how do we find who's at the top? Evelyn thought for a moment. She'd been reactive this whole time, always one step behind, always responding to their moves. But she had something they didn't, the element of chaos. They'd planned for a rational opponent, someone who'd follow protocol. They hadn't planned for her. We make them show themselves, she said. How? We give them what they want, me, Trevor, and the evidence, all in one place. Make it too tempting to resist. Castellanos stared at her. That's suicide. No, that's bait. Alice glanced at Evelyn in the rearview mirror. I know that look. You've got a plan. Working on one. They drove to a safe house Castellanos maintained, a nondescript apartment in a middle-class neighborhood. Inside, Castellanos made calls while Evelyn and Alice reviewed maps and schematics. Trevor sat on the couch, staring at nothing, shock setting in. Evelyn sat beside him. You doing okay? He laughed, a sound on the edge of hysteria. People keep trying to kill me. I'm not okay. I'll never be okay again. Yes, you will. How do you know? Because the alternative is letting them win. And you're not going to do that. Trevor looked at her. How do you do this? How do you keep going when everything's falling apart? Evelyn didn't answer right away. How did she keep going? Habit? Stubbornness? The fact that stopping meant dying and she wasn't ready for that yet. One step at a time. One breath at a time. You don't think about the big picture. You just focus on the next thing. What's the next thing? Ending this. Castellanos finished her calls, joined them. I've got teams moving on every location in Merrick's files. We're hitting the warehouses, the safe houses, everything, but it's going to take time. We don't have time, Evelyn said. They're already moving assets. By tomorrow, everything will be gone. Then what do you suggest? Evelyn stood, walked to the window. Outside, normal life continued. People walking dogs. Kids riding bikes. Nobody knowing that 3 blocks away, a battle had just been fought. We announce a press conference, tomorrow, noon, City Hall. We say I'm surrendering and bringing evidence of the trafficking network. Make it public. Make it loud. They'll never let you get there alive. I know. That's the point. They'll have to move in the open, bring their full force. And when they do, we'll be ready. Castellanos shook her head. You're talking about turning yourself into a target. I've been a target for 24 hours. At least this way I control the terms. And if it goes wrong? Then you still get the evidence. I'll upload it to Deadman Switch servers. If I don't check in every 12 hours, it goes public automatically. Castellanos was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, we do it your way, but I'm bringing every asset I have. Snipers, tactical teams, undercover officers. We're going to lock down that press conference like it's a presidential visit. Good. Make it visible. Make them think you're protecting me. I am protecting you. No, you're using me as bait to catch a predator. There's a difference. The next 12 hours were a blur of preparation. Castellanos coordinated with law enforcement, federal agencies, even private security. The press conference was announced at 8 p.m. Every major news outlet covered it. By 10 p.m., it was the top story. By midnight, the conspiracy theories had started. Evelyn spent the time reviewing the plan with Alice, checking equipment, memorizing layouts. The press conference would be on the steps of City Hall. Open ground. Multiple vantage points. Impossible to secure completely, which was the point. The traffickers would see the gaps and exploit them. And when they did, Castellanos' people would be waiting. Trevor couldn't sleep. He paced the safe house, checking the windows, jumping at every sound. Evelyn finally gave him a sedative from the medical kit. You need rest. Tomorrow's going to be hard. I don't want to sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see them. The women in those cages, the way they looked at me. I know. Do you? Have you seen things like that? Evelyn thought about Syria, Afghanistan, places where human beings did unspeakable things to each other, places where she'd been sent to stop it, and sometimes couldn't. Yes. How do you forget? You don't. You just learn to carry it. He took the sedative. 20 minutes later, he was asleep on the couch. Evelyn covered him with a blanket, then joined Alice and Castellanos in the kitchen. Castellanos had a tablet displaying real-time updates. We've arrested 43 people so far from the locations in Merrick's files. Low-level operators mostly, but we got one mid-level coordinator who's willing to talk in exchange for a deal. Says the network's run by a consortium, businessmen, politicians, even a federal judge. No names yet, but he's working on it. He won't live long enough to testify, Evelyn said. He's in protective custody, maximum security. Harris was in a hospital surrounded by guards. They still got to cross in Merrick. Castellanos' expression tightened. I've got people I trust watching him personally. If someone tries anything, we'll know. Evelyn hoped she was right, but hope wasn't strategy. She pulled out her phone, logged into one of the burner accounts she'd set up. Uploaded the real evidence, not the decoy files, but actual screenshots from Merrick's laptop, photos of the trafficking site, audio recordings from her comm link during the raids. Everything. Time-stamped. Encrypted. Set to release in 12 hours if she didn't stop it. What are you doing? Castellanos asked. Making sure the truth gets out, one way or another. At 6 a.m., they moved to a staging area near City Hall. Castellanos' team was already in position. Snipers on rooftops, undercover officers in the crowd, tactical units on standby. Evelyn walked the route she'd take from the armored car to the podium. 30 meters. 12 seconds at a normal pace. An eternity in a kill zone. Alice would be in this crowd, armed, watching for threats. Trevor would stay in the armored car until the last possible second, then join Evelyn at the podium. Castellanos would be on the steps, visible, a show of official support. By 11 a.m., the crowd had gathered. Media, protesters, curious onlookers. Evelyn watched from a tinted window in a building across the street. So many faces. Any one of them could be an assassin. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Last chance. Walk away now and you live. Show up, and everyone dies. Your choice. She deleted it, turned to Castellanos. They're getting nervous. That's good. Or they're confident. That's bad. Either way, we're committed. At 11:55, they loaded into the armored car. Evelyn sat across from Trevor, who looked like he might vomit. Castellanos was on her radio, coordinating final positions. Alice's voice came through Evelyn's earpiece. I'm in position. Got eyes on the podium. Crowd's thick. I count at least 3 people who don't belong. Mark them, Evelyn said quietly. Already done. 2 at your 10 o'clock, 1 at your 4, could be civilians, could be shooters. Can't tell yet. The armored car pulled up to City Hall at exactly noon. The crowd surged forward. Cameras flashed. Someone was shouting questions. Evelyn stepped out first. The sunlight was blinding after the darkness of the car. She scanned the crowd, looking for threats. Everything was a threat. Castellanos appeared beside her. Ready? No, let's go anyway. They walked toward the podium. Trevor followed, his legs shaking. 15 meters. 10. 5. They reached the steps. Evelyn turned to face the crowd. Hundreds of people. Thousands of eyes. And somewhere among them, someone who wanted her dead. A reporter shouted, Ms. Brooks, is it true you're wanted for terrorism? Another, did you kill Major Kowalski? A third, what evidence do you have? Evelyn stepped to the microphone. Her voice was steady, amplified across the plaza. My name is Evelyn Brooks. 24 hours ago, I witnessed a trafficking operation in Ashford City. Since then, I've been hunted by people who want to silence me. People with power, people who think they're untouchable. The crowd was silent now, listening. They've killed federal officers, framed innocent people, destroyed evidence, but they made one mistake. She paused. They assumed I'd stay quiet. They assumed I'd run. They assumed I was nobody. Movement in the crowd. Alice's voice. Shooter, you're 2 o'clock, rooftop. Evelyn didn't flinch. I'm uploading evidence to every news outlet in the country. Names, transactions, locations, everything. By tonight, you'll all know the truth. The shot came from her left, not her right. Alice had been wrong, or there were multiple shooters. Evelyn felt the bullet pass so close she felt the air displacement. It hit the podium, splintered wood. Chaos erupted. People screaming, running. Trevor hit the ground. Castellanos was shouting into her radio. More shots. From 3 positions now. The snipers were returning fire. Evelyn grabbed Trevor, pulled him toward the armored car. Someone in the crowd was pushing against the flow, moving toward them. Evelyn saw the weapon a second before he raised it. A compact submachine gun, hidden under a jacket. She shoved Trevor aside, threw herself at the shooter. They went down together, tumbling down the steps. He tried to bring the weapon around. She drove her knee into his ribs, felt something crack, grabbed his wrist, twisted. The gun fired wild, bullets tearing into the stone steps. She slammed his hand against the concrete until he let go, then struck his throat. He went limp. Around her, Castellanos' team was engaging multiple threats. Tactical officers swarming, undercover cops drawing weapons. The crowd had scattered, leaving bodies on the ground, some unconscious, some bleeding, some not moving. Alice appeared beside Evelyn, her pistol drawn. We need to move, now. They ran for the armored car. Trevor was already inside. Castellanos was coordinating the response, her voice cutting through the chaos. Evelyn climbed in. The driver hit the gas. They were moving before the door fully closed. Behind them, the gunfire continued, then stopped. Evelyn's earpiece crackled. Castellanos' voice. We got 4 shooters, 3 dead, 1 in custody. He's talking. Says he was hired through an intermediary, doesn't know who gave the final order. Of course he doesn't, Evelyn said. But then Castellanos' voice changed. Wait, he's got a phone. Encrypted. We're accessing it now. A pause, then, oh no. What? The intermediary, the person who hired him. Castellanos' voice was hollow. It's Judge Patricia Harrington, federal judge, presided over half the corruption trials in this state for the past decade. Evelyn felt something click into place. A judge. Someone with access to sealed evidence, witness protection details, classified information. Someone who could make cases disappear, protect conspirators, ensure the system never touched the network. Where is she now? Evelyn asked. Her chambers. She's supposed to be hearing a case this afternoon. Evelyn looked at Alice. Alice nodded. They were thinking the same thing. Take us there, Evelyn said. Right now. The federal courthouse was 10 blocks away. The armored car made it in 4 minutes, lights and sirens clearing traffic. Castellanos was already on the phone, issuing orders, coordinating with federal marshals. By the time they arrived, the courthouse was on lockdown. They entered through a secure entrance. Marshals everywhere, weapons drawn. Evelyn and Alice moved through the corridors with Castellanos, heading for Judge Harrington's chambers on the 3rd floor. 2 marshals stood outside the door. She inside? Castellanos asked. Yes, ma'am. She's with her clerk. We told her to stay put. Castellanos opened the door. The office was elegant. Dark wood, leather chairs, walls lined with law books. Judge Patricia Harrington sat behind her desk, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and a face that belonged on currency. Her clerk, a young woman in her 20s, stood beside her. Harrington looked up, her expression calm. Director Castellanos, to what do I owe this visit? You're under arrest for conspiracy, human trafficking, murder of federal officers, and about 40 other charges I'll think of on the way to booking. Harrington smiled. On what evidence? Castellanos pulled out the phone they'd recovered from the shooter. On this, your number, your messages, instructions to kill Evelyn Brooks and Trevor Moss. That's not my phone. Forensics will prove otherwise. Will they? Phones can be cloned, messages can be fabricated. You're going to need more than that to charge a federal judge. Evelyn stepped forward. How about testimony from the people you protected, the ones we arrested from the trafficking sites? They're rolling over, naming names. Yours keeps coming up. Harrington's smile never wavered. Testimony from criminals facing life sentences, desperate people who'll say anything for a deal. Any first-year law student could discredit them. Then how about financial records? Castellanos countered. We're tracing the money, offshore accounts, shell companies, your name's all over them. I look forward to my day in court. Harrington stood. Now, unless you have an arrest warrant signed by another judge, which you don't, because I know every federal judge in this district and none of them would dare, I suggest you leave my chambers. Evelyn looked at her. This woman had orchestrated everything. The trafficking network, the murders, the cover-up. And she was going to walk, because she'd built the system. She was the system. Then Trevor stepped into the room. Evelyn hadn't noticed him follow them. He was staring at Harrington, his face pale. I know you, he said. Harrington looked at him. I don't believe we've met. At the warehouse. You were there. I saw you through the door. You were talking to someone, a man in a suit. You said the shipment had to move early because of heat from the police. Harrington's expression finally cracked, just for a second, but it was enough. You're mistaken, she said. No, I'm not. I remember your voice. You said... Trevor's voice shook, but he pushed through. You said people like me didn't matter, that we were commodities, that no one would miss us. The room was silent. Castellanos looked at Harrington. Anything to say? Harrington's lawyer instincts kicked in. I'm not answering questions without my attorney present. That's fine. We'll wait. Castellanos pulled out handcuffs. Patricia Harrington, you're under arrest. The clerk suddenly moved. Fast. She had a gun, hidden in her jacket, small caliber, probably a .380. She raised it toward Trevor. Evelyn was closer. She grabbed the woman's wrist, twisted. The gun fired, the bullet going into the ceiling. Evelyn disarmed her in 2 seconds, put her face first on the floor. Marshals swarmed in. Castellanos cuffed Harrington while others secured the clerk. Evelyn helped Trevor stand. He was shaking. Did I do okay? He asked. You did perfect. They walked out of the courthouse to a circus. Media everywhere, federal agents, police, and in the center of it all, Judge Patricia Harrington being led to a police car in handcuffs, her face finally showing something other than contempt. Fear. Over the next 6 hours, the network collapsed. Arrests across the city, warrants served, assets frozen. Castellanos coordinated from a mobile command center, her team working faster than the conspirators could react. By nightfall, 73 people were in custody. More warrants were being issued. Evelyn sat in Castellanos' office, watching the news coverage. Every channel was running the story. The evidence had uploaded automatically when she'd missed her check-in during the courthouse raid. Now it was everywhere. The names, the transactions, the proof. Castellanos entered, looking exhausted. You did it. We did it. No, you did it. If you hadn't pushed, hadn't refused to quit, this network would still be operating. She sat down heavily. 17 people rescued from the trafficking sites. 300 victims identified from records we seized. We'll be processing this case for years. What about Trevor? Witness protection, new identity, new life. He'll testify against Harrington and the others, then disappear. He deserves that. Castellanos was quiet for a moment. What about you? What do you deserve? Evelyn didn't answer. What did she deserve? Six years ago, she'd thought she deserved peace, anonymity, a quiet life. Now she knew that was never going to happen. Peace was something you earned, and she hadn't earned it yet. Full reinstatement, Castellanos said. Full rank, full clearance, full benefits. The Ghost Angel program can be reactivated. You'd have your choice of assignments. I need to think about it. Take your time, but not too much. The world still needs people like you. Evelyn left the office, walked out into the night. The city looked different now, cleaner somehow, like a wound that had been lanced, the infection draining away. It wouldn't last. Evil never stayed gone. But for now, for tonight, it was enough. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You won this round? Congratulations. But there's always another round. See you soon. Evelyn stared at the message, deleted it, turned off her phone. Tomorrow, she'd deal with tomorrow. Tonight, she was just going to breathe. She walked through empty streets, her ribs aching, her body exhausted. Found herself at Silvergate Medical Center. The ER was quiet. Night shift. She stood outside, looking at the entrance where she'd been thrown out less than 48 hours ago. Sarah appeared in the doorway, taking a break. She saw Evelyn, froze. Then she walked over. "I saw the news," Sarah said. "Yeah. You saved all those people." "Tried to." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry. For before. For not saying anything when they fired you." "It's okay." "It's not. But thank you for saying that." Sarah glanced back at the hospital. "They're hiring. If you want your job back. It wouldn't be the same job. Actual nurse position, better pay, respect." Evelyn looked at the hospital, the place where this had all started, where she'd been invisible, where she'd been nothing. "I'll think about it." She walked away, kept walking. And somewhere in the darkness behind her, she felt eyes watching. Evelyn didn't turn around, didn't reach for a weapon she no longer carried, just kept her pace steady, her breathing controlled, counting her steps the way she'd done in a dozen other cities where survival meant blending into shadows. The October air was cold enough to see her breath, and Ashford City's streets were emptying as midnight approached. She'd been awake for nearly 60 hours. Her body was screaming for rest. Her mind wouldn't allow it. The feeling of being watched persisted for 3 more blocks, then vanished. Whoever it was had either given up or was better at surveillance than she'd credited. Evelyn stopped at a corner, pretended to check her phone, still off, and used the reflection in a storefront window to scan behind her. Nothing obvious. But that didn't mean nothing was there. She caught a bus heading west, rode it to the end of the line, then walked another mile to Alice's apartment. The old medic answered on the first knock, pistol in hand, but lowered when she saw Evelyn's face. "You look worse than you did this morning," Alice said, stepping aside. "I feel worse." Inside, Alice had the news playing on mute. Footage of Judge Harrington's arrest, the courthouse in chaos, Evelyn's face frozen mid-frame as she'd grabbed the clerk's weapon. "You're famous now. Every network's running your story. They're calling you a hero." Evelyn sat heavily on the couch. "I'm not a hero. I'm someone who didn't quit when quitting would have been easier." "That's the definition of a hero, kid." "Then the definition's wrong." Alice brought her tea, the same bitter blend from before, and sat across from her. "Castellanos called, asked if I knew where you were, said she needs you to come in for debriefing." "What did you tell her?" "That you'd show up when you were ready." Alice sipped her own tea. "She also said something else. The shooter they captured at the press conference, he gave up his handler before his lawyer could stop him. Woman named Margaret Voss. Runs a private security firm that's really just a front for contract killers." Evelyn's head came up. "Voss? Like Dr. Raymond Voss, the dentist who implanted the kill switches?" "His wife. They've been running a 2-person operation for 15 years. He handles the medical side, implants, poisons, clean deaths that look natural. She handles recruitment and logistics. Federal agents raided their house an hour ago. Found enough evidence to put them both away for life." "Did they find the client list?" "Encrypted. Tech team's working on it. But Margaret's singing. Gave up 3 names already. A senator from Ohio, a tech CEO, and," Alice paused, "a deputy director in the same agency Castellanos runs." Evelyn closed her eyes. The corruption went higher than they'd thought. Higher than anyone had thought. How high does it go? Don't know yet. But Castellanos is cleaning house, suspending anyone who had contact with the trafficking network, launching internal investigations. It's going to be bloody. Good. They sat in silence for a while. The TV showed more footage, protesters gathering outside the courthouse, demanding answers. Citizens who'd lived in Ashford City their whole lives, discovering their institutions had been rotted from within. The mayor had given a statement, promising transparency. The governor had called for a federal task force. Words. Just words. But maybe words that would lead to action. Evelyn's phone, still off, sat on the table like a dead thing. She stared at it. Someone texted me, after the courthouse. Said this was just 1 round, implied there would be more. "You think the network's still operational?" "Networks don't die. They adapt. We cut off the head, but the body's still out there. Money doesn't disappear. Demand doesn't disappear. Give it 6 months, someone else will fill the vacuum." Alice studied her. "So what are you going to do?" "I don't know. That's not like you. Maybe I'm tired of being like me." Alice set down her tea. "You know what your problem is? You think being strong means never admitting you're human. You've spent so long being Ghost Angel that you forgot how to be Evelyn Brooks. Evelyn Brooks is a nobody who cleans bedpans. Evelyn Brooks saved 17 lives in the past 2 days, took down a trafficking network that had been operating for years, exposed corruption at the highest levels. That's not nobody. That's someone who decided invisibility was easier than dealing with who she really is. Evelyn wanted to argue. Couldn't. Because Alice was right. 6 years ago, she'd walked away from being Ghost Angel because the cost had become too high. Too many kills. Too many missions that blurred the line between justice and murder. She'd wanted to be normal, to be small, to be someone who didn't have blood on her hands. But blood didn't wash off. It stained, and pretending otherwise had been the real lie. "I don't know how to be anything else," Evelyn said quietly. "Then figure it out. You've got time now." The next morning, Evelyn went to County General Hospital. Not to see Trevor. He was already gone, relocated to a secure facility before his new identity was finalized. She went to see the people they'd rescued from the trafficking sites. 17 women and 3 men, ranging from 19 to 46. Most were stable. Some weren't. 2 were still in ICU, fighting infections from the surgical procedures Cross had performed. Evelyn stood outside the ward, looking through the window at the nearest patient. A woman in her 20s, tubes running from her arms, monitors beeping steadily. A nurse was checking her vitals, adjusting the IV drip. The woman's eyes were open but unfocused, staring at nothing. "Can I help you?" A doctor approached, young, earnest, wearing a badge that identified her as Dr. Emily Tran. "I'm Evelyn Brooks." Recognition flashed across Tran's face. "The one who found them." "Yes, they're getting the best care we can provide. Physical wounds will heal. Psychological trauma, that's going to take longer. We've got counselors working with them, social workers helping with placement. Most don't have families to go back to. That's why they were targeted." "I know." Tran was quiet for a moment. "You did something important. These people, they were invisible. The system had already failed them. If you hadn't pushed, they'd still be in those cages, or dead." Evelyn looked at the woman in the bed. Invisible. Like she'd been invisible. Like so many people were invisible until someone decided they mattered. "Can I see her? Just for a minute." Tran hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. Don't upset her." Evelyn entered the room quietly. The woman's eyes tracked her movement, focusing slowly. Up close, Evelyn could see the surgical scar on her abdomen, partially hidden by the hospital gown. Kidney removal. Or liver. Something someone with money had needed, and this woman had been deemed expendable enough to provide. "Hi," Evelyn said softly. "My name's Evelyn." The woman didn't respond, just stared. "I wanted to tell you that the people who did this to you are in custody. They're going to prison. They can't hurt you anymore." Still nothing. "I also wanted to say I'm sorry. Sorry it took so long to find you. Sorry the system failed you so badly that you ended up in that place." The woman's eyes filled with tears. She opened her mouth, tried to speak, couldn't. Evelyn reached out, hesitated, then took her hand. The woman squeezed back, hard, like she was holding on to the only solid thing in a world that had proven itself made of quicksand. They sat like that for 3 minutes. Then Evelyn stood, gently released her hand. "You're going to be okay. It won't feel like it for a while, but you will." Outside, Dr. Tran was waiting. "She hasn't spoken since we brought her in, but she held your hand. That's progress." "She deserves more than progress. She deserves justice." "She's getting it, because of you." Evelyn left the hospital feeling hollowed out. She'd done good work, saved lives, stopped monsters, but the woman in that bed would carry scars forever, physical and otherwise. Justice didn't erase trauma. Punishment didn't undo harm. The best they could do was try to prevent the next victim. And the next. And the next. An endless cycle. Her phone buzzed. She'd turned it back on that morning. A text from Castellanos. "Need you at headquarters, now. Not a request." Evelyn caught a taxi. Federal headquarters was a glass and steel building downtown, the kind of architecture designed to project power and transparency. She went through security, metal detectors, bag search, ID verification. The guards recognized her face from the news, tried not to stare. Failed. Castellanos met her on the 7th floor. The director looked like she'd aged 5 years and 2 days. My office. Inside, Castellanos closed the door, gestured for Evelyn to sit. We cracked the Voss encryption. Client list spans 20 years, hundreds of names, politicians, CEOs, military officers, and several people in my own agency. How many? 7 that we've identified so far, including Deputy Director Marcus Hale. He's the one who authorized the ambush on Kowalski's team, fed the traffickers our route, our timing, everything. When that failed, he activated the Voss network to finish the job. Evelyn processed this. Hale was second in command, had clearance to everything, could cover up evidence, redirect investigations, protect conspirators. Where is he now? In custody, lawyered up immediately, but we have enough evidence to bury him. He'll spend the rest of his life in a supermax facility. Castellanos pulled out a file, slid it across the desk. That's not why I called you here. Evelyn opened the file. It contained a personnel report, her own, service record, commendations, the circumstances of her departure 6 years ago. And at the bottom, a new entry. Reinstatement approved, effective immediately, rank of major, assigned to Special Investigations Unit. I can't accept this, Evelyn said. Why not? Because I left for a reason. What reason? Evelyn closed the file. I killed a lot of people. Some deserved it, some didn't. I stopped being able to tell the difference. So I walked away before I became the thing I was supposed to be fighting against. Castellanos leaned back in her chair. You know what I see when I look at your record? Someone who never missed a shot, never failed a mission, never left anyone behind, someone so good at her job it scared her. It should have scared me, maybe, but running away didn't solve anything, did it? You spent 6 years trying to be invisible, and the moment things got bad, you became Ghost Angel again. Not because someone ordered you to, because that's who you are. Evelyn wanted to argue, but Castellanos was right. She'd tried to bury Ghost Angel, and when people needed saving, Ghost Angel had clawed her way back to the surface. Not duty, not orders, choice. The job isn't what it used to be, Castellanos continued. We're rebuilding from the ground up. New protocols, new oversight. No more black sites, no more kill lists, no more missions where the only goal is making problems disappear. We're going after networks like this one, trafficking, corruption, the systems that enable them, clean work, legal work, the kind of thing you can be proud of. I don't do pride. Then do it because people need you. The woman you visited this morning, she needs someone to make sure the people who hurt her actually face consequences. Trevor needs someone to make sure witness protection actually protects him. The next victim needs someone to find them before it's too late. That someone could be you. Evelyn stared at the file. Major. Real authority. Resources. The ability to make a difference without operating in shadows. It was everything she'd walked away from, rebuilt into something that might actually be worth doing. I need time to think, she said. You've got 48 hours. After that, the position goes to someone else. Evelyn left headquarters, walked aimlessly for an hour. Found herself back at Silvergate Medical Center. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the parking lot where she'd been thrown out less than 3 days ago. The ER entrance had been repaired, new doors replacing the ones shattered during the hostage situation. A memorial had been erected near the entrance, flowers and candles for the staff who'd been injured. Sarah was leaving her shift, spotted Evelyn, hesitated, then approached. You came back. Just passing through. That's what you said last time. Sarah looked uncomfortable. Look, about before, when they fired you, I should have said something, should have stood up for you. I was scared. That's not an excuse, but it's the truth. It's okay. It's really not. But I'm working on being better. We all are. New administration, new policies. They fired everyone involved with the trafficking network. Brought in outside oversight. It's going to take time to rebuild trust. Trust is earned slowly and lost quickly. Yeah. Sarah shifted her weight. The offer still stands. Nurse position, full benefits. You'd be working trauma, not cleaning, making a real difference. Evelyn looked at the hospital. She'd spent 6 years here, invisible, dismissed, treated like furniture. But she'd also saved lives here, done good work despite the corruption around her. The building itself wasn't evil, just the people who'd been running it. I'll think about it, Evelyn said. That night, she went back to Alice's apartment. The old medic was packing, not leaving permanently, just organizing supplies for a trip. Got a call from an old friend, Alice explained. Runs a clinic in Guatemala. They need someone with surgical experience. Figured I'd spend a few months down there. You're leaving. You sound surprised. I've been sitting on my ass for 5 years. Time to do something useful. Alice taped up a box of medical supplies. What about you? Figure out what you're doing yet? No. Liar. You've already decided. You're just scared to admit it. Evelyn sat on the couch. I don't want to go back to being Ghost Angel. Then don't. Be something new. Be someone who uses those skills for something other than killing. Alice stopped packing, looked at her. You know what your real problem is? You think you have to choose between being a warrior and being human. Like they're mutually exclusive. They're not. You can be both. How? By deciding what you're fighting for instead of just what you're fighting against. The words hit harder than Evelyn expected. For 6 years, she'd been running from something. Her past, her guilt, her identity as Ghost Angel. She'd never considered running towards something. A purpose instead of an escape. What if I fail? Evelyn asked quietly. Then you fail. People fail all the time. The trick is failing forward. Evelyn spent the next 2 days doing nothing. Just existing, sleeping, eating, letting her body heal. Her ribs were still cracked. The stitches on her forehead itched, and bruises covered half her torso. But she was alive. That counted for something. On the morning of the 3rd day, she went to federal headquarters. Castellanos was in a meeting but stepped out when Evelyn arrived. Decision? The director asked. I'll take the position, on 3 conditions. I'm listening. 1. I choose my own team. People I trust, not people assigned to me. Agreed. 2. If I think a mission crosses a line, morally or legally, I can walk away without consequences. Within reason, agreed. 3. My official title isn't Ghost Angel. That name died 6 years ago. I'm Major Evelyn Brooks. Nothing more. Castellanos smiled. Welcome back, Major Brooks. They shook hands. Evelyn's grip was firm. So was Castellanos's. An understanding between 2 people who'd seen the worst humanity had to offer and decided to fight it anyway. Over the next 2 weeks, Ashford City transformed. Judge Harrington's trial was fast-tracked. Public pressure ensured no delays. The evidence was overwhelming. Testimony from survivors, financial records, recordings from Margaret Voss. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge who'd spent a career manipulating the system was sentenced to life without parole. Dr. Raymond Voss and his wife received similar sentences. The tech CEO and the senator were arrested, their empires crumbling overnight. Deputy Director Hale tried to cut a deal, offering names in exchange for a reduced sentence. Castellanos refused. Some people didn't deserve mercy. The trafficking network's remaining operators scattered. Some were caught. Others disappeared. Evelyn knew they'd resurface eventually. Evil always did. But for now, the network was broken. The survivors were safe. The system was being rebuilt. Trevor was given a new identity and relocated to Montana. Before he left, he called Evelyn. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to. I do. You saved my life multiple times. You saved your own life by doing the right thing, going to the police, being willing to testify. That took courage. I was terrified the whole time. Courage isn't not being scared. It's being scared and doing it anyway. Trevor was quiet for a moment. What happens now? For you? I keep working. There are more people who need help. Will you find them? I'll try. They said goodbye. Evelyn hung up, feeling something unfamiliar. Not pride. Not satisfaction. Something quieter. Purpose, maybe. The sense that the work she was doing mattered. A month after the courthouse arrest, Silvergate Medical Center held a ceremony. They were unveiling a memorial for the staff who'd been injured during the hostage situation and honoring those who'd helped during the crisis. Evelyn was invited. She almost didn't go. Alice convinced her. You owe it to yourself to be recognized for once. Stop hiding. The ceremony was in the hospital's main atrium. Hundreds of people, staff, patients, community members. A podium had been set up, speakers prepared. The new hospital director, a woman named Dr. Rachel Kim, gave a speech about resilience and accountability. Then she called Evelyn to the stage. Evelyn walked up reluctantly. The crowd applauded. She looked out at the faces. Sarah, Dr. Tran, nurses she'd worked with for years who'd never known her name. They were looking at her now. Really looking. Dr. Kim handed her a plaque. For extraordinary courage and service to this community. Evelyn Brooks, we owe you more than words can express. Evelyn accepted the plaque, stared at it, her name engraved in metal, permanent, real. I don't need recognition, she said into the microphone. Her voice echoed across the atrium. I just need people to remember something. Invisible doesn't mean powerless. The person you ignore might be the one who saves your life. The nobody you dismiss might be someone extraordinary. We're all stronger than the world tries to tell us we are. Don't forget that. The applause was deafening. Evelyn stepped off the stage, handed the plaque to Sarah. Keep this. Put it somewhere people can see it. Don't you want it? I don't need a reminder. I know who I am now. She left the ceremony, walked out into the afternoon sun. The city looked different than it had a month ago. Cleaner, brighter. Or maybe she was just seeing it differently. Her phone buzzed. A text from Castellanos. New case. Trafficking network in Chicago. Need your expertise. Interested? Evelyn stared at the message. She could say no. Could walk away. Go back to Alice's apartment. Help her pack for Guatemala. Maybe join her. Live a quiet life helping people one surgery at a time. Or she could say yes. Could use her skills for something that mattered. Could find the next victim before it was too late. She typed back, send me the details. The response was immediate. Welcome to the team, Major. Evelyn pocketed her phone, started walking. She didn't know where she was going, just forward, one step at a time, the way she'd always done. Behind her, Silvergate Medical Center stood tall, its windows reflecting the sunset. Inside, patients were being healed, staff were working to rebuild trust, and a plaque with her name was being mounted on the wall. Proof that she'd existed, that she'd mattered. But Evelyn didn't need proof. She'd learned something over the past month. Something important. Strength wasn't about being seen. It was about knowing your own worth regardless of whether anyone else recognized it. Power wasn't about dominating others. It was about choosing who you wanted to be and refusing to let the world tell you otherwise. She'd spent 6 years being invisible, thinking that made her safe. But safety wasn't the same as living, and living meant accepting that she'd always be a warrior. The only question was what she'd fight for. She'd found her answer. Somewhere in Chicago, someone needed help. Someone was trapped, terrified, invisible to a system that had failed them. Someone who needed a ghost to become an angel. Evelyn Brooks was on her way. And this time, she wasn't hiding. The end. The quiet ones are always watching, always waiting, always stronger than you think. Never dismiss someone just because they don't make noise. Never underestimate someone just because they choose peace over violence. Because the moment you corner them, the moment you threaten what they protect, the moment you mistake silence for weakness, that's when you discover what they really are. And by then, it's already too late.